35-year-old office assistant Dolores Houghton is suing her former friend, 40-year-old merchandise manager Pamela Nicolay, for illegally taking possession of a Chevy Blazer. Pamela says Dolores gave it to her as collateral for an unpaid phone bill.
Order. All rise. This is case number 488 on the calendar in the matter of Houghton versus Nicolay.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Let me see if I understand this case. Miss Houghton, your husband was incarcerated.
Right.
And while he was incarcerated, you were living not far from the defendant.
Correct.
You had an arrangement where your husband would make collect calls to her phone from prison in order to talk to you.
Correct. It was from county jail.
And there was quite a bill that was amassed, over $400 worth of collect phone calls. At some point, you agreed to sign over title to an old truck that's about 20 years old to the defendant to hold as collateral for the monies that you owed her for the phone bill.
Not exactly. The title for the truck was only to be used just
a second. You agreed to sign over the title to her?
Yes.
Yes. To ensure that your husband paid the bill?
Actually, what was the whole point? The point about the title and me giving it to Pam was so she can use for leverage so Michael could buy back the title because it was his truck, and she figured he would actually be more apt to pay the phone bill for his title to the truck because that was his only...
Whatever. It was really to be held as collateral until the bill was paid.
The title.
The truck. Not the title. The title isn't worth anything. The title is just a piece of paper. Your husband got out of jail, and an agreement was not worked out, I assume. Your husband went and took the truck. At some point. Your husband went and took the truck from where? Miss Nicolay.
Actually, she stole it from my house on November the 15th.
Who came and took the truck from the house?
Dolores and the tow truck driver that she supposedly is having an affair with.
I don't care. Okay. Now, what you want is, you want the truck back. Do you have the truck now?
No, I sold it.
You sold it? When did you sell it?
I sold it, actually I signed title over a few days ago to a gentleman that had purchased it.
So this is February?
Yes.
Between the time that she signed the truck over to you, which was when?
She signed it over on September the 18th.
And when did he get out of jail?
He got out in October.
Between October and February, when you signed title over to somebody else, did he pay you the money for the phone bill?
No, he did not. He called me up and said that we had agreed on $430 and I would turn the truck over to him. And there you have a Thunderbird that's been sitting on our property that I agreed to store. And that and the truck he was to pick up on November the 15th. And that's the date that they stole it.
November 15th, he was supposed to bring you the money.
He was supposed to bring the money and remove both the vehicles from the property. And that day they stole the Blazer from the property.
You mean she came with the truck?
The tow truck gentleman, when I was not on my property, and loaded it up onto the vehicle, the back of the tow truck.
Okay, where's the husband now?
As far as I know, he was taken back to jail.
He was released. He was taken to jail.
She knows a lot more about your husband than you do.
Here's
He was released. When?
I don't know. I talked to the CHP officer, and they said that they released him. Parole did.
Okay. So, Miss Houghton, what do you want?
All I wanted was for Michael to have his truck back because at the time I had already purchased a vehicle.
No, what do you want now?
What do I want now?
Yeah.
To take all this back where it originally started because it wasn't for her to have to do with whatever she wanted to do with. It wasn't her. She got
I'm asking what you're suing for now.
For the vehicle, because it wasn't hers to sell.
Sure it was. She had the title.
But I didn't sign it for that purpose.
You signed it over to her so that she could get paid from your husband for the phone calls that he had made to you collect. He got out of jail. He didn't pay her for the phone bill. What did you expect her to do?
Well,
you want to be standing over there and she's standing over here and saying you owe me $430 for a phone bill?
Actually, that would be all right because it wasn't between me and her. It was between Michael and her. And
no, it wasn't.
She had talked to Michael on the phone.
No, it wasn't originally. According to you, it wasn't originally. According to you, the title to the truck rested in you. You had the ability to sign over the title to her. You did. You did. And you said, this is your story. You said, I thought she could use it for leverage to get Michael to pay the phone bill. That's what you told me. That's what you said right here.
Partially, because originally the truck title was in Dolores and Michael, or Dolores and Michael. And
whatever,
Pam,
I don't care about that. The title to the truck is in your name. According to your complaint, you say that you wanted her to hold the truck to give her leverage to get Michael to pay the bill. That's what you say.
That was something we both had discussed for my
Fine,
best
that's what you
interest.
decided to do. So she said, fine, I want my phone bill paid, and if I can't get my phone bill paid, at least I have something from this jailbird who's in and out of jail all the time. Right? She knew she wasn't going to get a sou out of you. Why didn't you pay the phone bill? It's your husband.
I had attempted to pay in ways of helping her with her mom's.
Not helping her. Not helping her. Straighten out a house and babysitting her children. I'm talking about paying her cash money, U.S. dollars, to pay for her phone bill. The phone company doesn't accept babysitting services.
Well,
the phone company accepts cash money.
for one, I wasn't the one who was accepting the phone calls. I didn't tell her to do that.
Did you ask her if you could collect phone calls from my husband so I could talk to him?
No. Michael had asked her and her son before they even discussed it with me because...
Go ahead.
No. Actually...
Yeah, she's full of baloney. I got that already.
Actually, she had received a few phone calls before I'd even known that the phone calls were receiving at my mother's home. My mother is an elderly lady, and she has Alzheimer's disease, which lives on our property. My son stays down there with her. And Dolores was going down there and receiving the telephone calls.
Before you even knew about it?
Right.
That sound right to you?
I think DJ was the one who accepted the phone calls.
Whatever. It's not her responsibility. It's not her responsibility. It's your husband.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dolores Houghton says former friend Pamela Nicolay owes her for a Chevy Blazer. Pamela says the truck was collateral for collect calls made from jail by Dolores's husband.
You want to say to him, don't call here, collect anymore? I'm not going to be here to speak to you because I don't want to incur any bills?
I did try that.
You tried it, but it didn't work. All you have to do is not go to the phone.
And there was times I never went to the phone.
I'm not talking about times you never went to the phone. $430 worth, you did go to the phone.
Okay. I went to the phone.
According to you, it's not your truck anyway. It's Michael's truck. Right? Is that what you just told me? It was Michael's truck? So what are you doing here? You want money from her?
No, I was wanting Michael to get his truck back. So
He can't get his truck back. She sold it. So what do you want?
I guess if she wanted her $400 phone bill, she got paid her $400 phone bill. And in reality, if I sold her the truck, well, how much did I sell it to her for? $400?
How much did you get for the truck?
I had to put a lot of money back into it, but I sold it for $1,500.
Good. So you made a profit.
After Michael put a transmission in it.
After they stole it, they put a transmission in it.
Well, that was nice of him.
Yeah.
He should have saved the money that he spent on the transmission and given her her phone bill.
He got a transmission from Wrecking Yard.
He's very resourceful, this guy. He's just not resourceful about getting money and paying his obligations.
You're right
Good.
about that.
So what are you doing here? I don't know what you're doing here. You say it's Michael's truck. That's what you told me. It's Michael's truck. I just wanted Michael to get his truck back, right? Michael did not get his truck back because he didn't pay the phone bill. So what are you doing here?
I am here because I initially was just wanting to go back from where she took the truck that she wasn't supposed to have in her possession because it wasn't her truck to take.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
There was numerous times that he had offered to pay a payment plan, and she refused it because her husband had become angry, so she had to turn around and sell it.
She just didn't keep her into the bargain. I helped her when she was down and out, and then she turned her back and stabbed me in the back.
And now the next case.
All parties on Valancourt versus O'Reilly. Step forward, please.
23-year-old preschool teacher Lisa Valancourt is suing 22-year-old bar manager Brendan O'Reilly for her German Shepherd's broken teeth.
Miss Valancourt, this is your dog, I assume.
Yes.
According to your complaint, You dropped your dog off at a friend's house for your dog to play with her dog.
Yes.
And the defendant came in and decided to take both dogs for a walk, correct?
Take them to the dog park.
Or the dog park. Had anyone asked you to take her dog to the dog park?
No, ma'am.
What happened with her dog?
Well, there's a gentleman playing with the tennis racket and the tennis ball that the dog park supplies. He threw the tennis ball up to hit it, and as he threw it and swung, Jack jumped for the ball, so the tennis racket and Jack met the ball at the same time.
So this gentleman hit the dog in
In the mouth.
snout
Yes, ma'am.
with the tennis racket. Well, what happened to the dog after he was hit?
Jack ran over, laid down, and whimpered a little bit. I ran over to Jack, saw what had happened, talked to the gentleman for a minute, and
What do
then
you mean you
left.
talked to him for a minute?
I said that it was unfortunate that it happened, and asked him his name, and that's about it, and I left.
Did you see the dog's mouth?
Yes, ma'am.
The dog was injured?
Yes, it was.
So this lawsuit is about, pay attention, the medical bills that you
Yes.
incurred for the dog.
Yes.
Now, Mr. O'Reilly, you asked the gentleman his name. Did you ask him where he lived?
No, ma'am.
Didn't you feel as if he was responsible for the injury to the dog?
I did, but many times I had hit tennis balls to the park myself, and I thought that if a dog had jumped while I was swinging the racket and hit it, that it would simply be an accident. Because those things happen.
And is that what you told the plaintiff when she told you she wanted you to pay the bills?
Yes.
No, he didn't. He said, you better get a lawyer then, because I'm not going to hand you the money.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You treated this all very cavalierly.
Okay, apparently you've never been to a dog park. They run
No,
around,
I've
they
been
jump
to a dog
up.
park, sir. I have had dogs all my life, and I know exactly what it's like.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Valancourt claims former friend Brendan O'Reilly is responsible for her German Shepherd's broken teeth.
How much were your vet bills for Jack?
The total was $1,921, and they are currently broken again.
What did they have to do to his... It was his front teeth that
His
were broken.
two big canine teeth. He does bite work. He's a Schutzhund dog, which is like police dog training, and I train him. That's what I bought him for. And they've had to do 2 root canals, and they recapped him or bonded him. It's like a special thing that the doctor does. And one of them broke. He doesn't like his muzzle. And one of them just actually broke 2 weeks ago when we were doing bite work.
Okay, but right now your vet bills is what you
Are
said was
$1,921.
Okay.
Originally I was asked to pay $900.
Well, it got worse. I assume you have the bills.
I have all of them, yes.
Let me
Can
see,
you bring them up?
please.
Stay right there, man.
They're all circled, the totals.
Now, the initial problem was created by you because you, without anyone asking you to, took her dog.
I'd have to disagree.
Who asked you to take
The
her
initial
dog out?
problem was with her leaving the dog at my house.
No. No. You had other options. If she left the dog at your house, were you living there with your girlfriend at the time?
I was living there.
Okay, so you were living there with your girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay. You weren't complaining that the dog was there because then you could have made a phone call and said, get your dog out of my house. You decided to take her dog out along, I assume, with the other dog that was there.
Yes.
So you made that decision unilaterally. So between the two of you, if the dog is injured, let's say the dog is injured by, a flying meteor, not by somebody else's negligence, you would be responsible because you placed the dog in a position of being in that particular place and time.
Okay, what if I wasn't there when the dog was left there? I had no say in it.
It doesn't make any difference, Mr. O'Reilly. Your recourse is not to take the dog to the park. Your recourse is to pick up the phone and call her and say, come get your dog. I don't want it here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What I don't understand even further, Mr. O'Reilly, is this man was negligent. If you're going to use a tennis racket to hit balls to a dog, then you have to make sure that the field is clear so that you're not going to hit either another person or a dog. That's your responsibility if you're using a tennis racket, so that you cavalierly walk up to him and say, yeah, It happens.
Okay, apparently you've never been to a dog park. They run
No,
around,
I've
they
been
jump
to a dog
up.
park, sir. I have had dogs all my life, and I know exactly what it's like. But if somebody used a tennis racket, and in using a tennis racket wasn't careful enough so that my dog was injured, I would say not only get his name, but get his address and find out if he had homeowner's insurance that may cover the problem, if there were vet bills. You treated this all very cavalierly. Bottom line, somebody is out $1,921. And if you had the name of the person and the address of the person for her to proceed against,
They already have it.
where did she get the name and address of the person?
As far as I know, her sister tracked the person down and got the name and address and talked to the gentleman.
Why didn't you?
I didn't, simply because if I was in his shoes, I would feel the same. I wouldn't want to be held responsible.
I suggest that since you didn't bother to track down this gentleman initially, that you track him down now, because you have a lawsuit against him for $1,921. You personally, not her. You go get the money from him. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,921. That's all.
Thank you.
All are excused. You may step out.
Come on, Jack.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The one is broken right now, this one. That's just a minor break. Before they were broken all the way up to here.
Well, it's unfortunate that people don't take responsibility for their actions, and I'm sorry that Judge Judy didn't side with me a little bit more.
Don't leave your dog anywhere someone could take him.
33-year-old graphic designer Ramon Alvarado is suing the mother of his two children, 28-year-old X-ray technician Randy Shannon Ayala, for his personal items. Randy is countersuing for a wave runner, trailer, and Sea-Doo.
Order. All rise. Now this is case number 64 on the calendar in the matter of Alvarado versus Ayala. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
You two folks had a 9-year relationship, according to what I've read, and you have 2 children together.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are the children?
4 and 8, ma'am.
How come you never got married?
There was some trust issues, ma'am, that I couldn't oversee.
What do you mean trust is? You have a trust fund?
No, basically infidelity.
There was no trust.
Sounds
So
weird.
what do you have 2 children together for?
It sounds weird, Your Honor, but our first child was unplanned. It was an unplanned
Yeah,
pregnancy.
but then you have another one.
And then we had another.
The only reason I'm asking you this, Mr. Alvarado, is really not to get into your history, but to suggest to you that it's very difficult for a court when 2 people decide to live together. You know, we have courts for people who want to divorce because they're married. We have certain laws that are involved. You have, depending upon where you live, equitable distribution, community property. We have all kinds of laws. But if you live together for 9 years and you have a family and you don't have a marriage on paper, it's very difficult. No court's going to go back and trace who bought the Ski-Doo. What is it? Oh. What do you say he has of yours?
Sea-Doo, Your Honor.
Sea-Doo.
Yes, ma'am.
Back in 1990. Nobody's going to look at that. Certainly not me. All right, so let's take care of this case very fast. What personal items do you say that she has of yours?
Well, she has several, Your Honor, but I'm only contesting 2. It's a personal computer that I had custom built by a friend.
Okay.
Uh,
When?
December of last year, Your Honor.
Okay. 1 computer and 1...
And a Nissan Pathfinder that the defendant and me purchased together.
So you purchased it together?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you say you purchased it together, then why would you sue for it?
Well, because I'm still paying for it on my credit card, and I just don't believe it's fair for her to drive something that I'm still paying for.
Okay, let's deal with the computer first.
Okay.
Do you have this computer?
No.
Where is it?
He picked it up with all his belongings when he came to the house in January when he picked up all his belongings.
No, I don't believe that. Why would he sue for it if he picked it up?
Because he knows that I wanted it, and he took 2 computers with him on that date.
No, Miss Ayala, listen to me very carefully.
Yeah,
Just a second.
Sorry.
You saw him take the computer?
No, I was there the day that he
Did
picked
he?
up his belongings.
Did
Yes,
you see
it was
him take-
in his belongings.
Well, step up here, and I'll see you. Tell me your last name.
My name is Wendy Miller.
Miss Miller, You were present when he moved out?
Yes, I was.
When he came back with the truck and got all of his stuff?
Yes, I was.
Did you actually see him take his computer?
It was in a green tote, in one of those plastic totes. And I recall saying, Randy, why aren't you keeping this? I thought you were having one and he was having one. And she said no. We decided he was having it all.
Taking both.
Taking both. Because she didn't want anything to fight over.
Because I've been in a physically violent relationship for the last 9 years, and I know what he's capable of. So I just wanted to make it as easy as possible and give him what he was requesting, and done deal.
She says she saw you carry out the computer in a green bag, sir.
That's incorrect, Your Honor. I wouldn't be here, Your Honor, if I'm not that type of person. I mean, that would be totally petty for me to do. The computer was custom built for me. I'm a plumbing designer, so it's basically my trade. I don't have it.
She says she doesn't have it.
Well,
Is what you're telling me is that you don't have it?
That's correct.
Did you sell it?
No?
Yes.
Just a minute. Didn't sell it. You say that he took it.
Yes, he packed it up himself and took it.
I don't know who has the computer. I thought if it was easy, I might deal with it. It's not. All right, let's talk about the car. You two people had a marriage together. As far as I'm concerned, for 9 years. It wasn't a marriage on paper. I don't intend to spend too much time with this. Let's talk about the car. Let me see what you're paying off, sir.
Okay.
On the car.
Well, basically, I have paperwork also showing that I took a student loan for the computer.
I'm not interested in the computer. I don't know
Okay.
where it is.
Then I have paperwork from my credit card showing the orange highlighted area showing the balance transfer from Wells Fargo to my credit card for the balance of the
Wells Fargo
truck.
had nothing to do with it.
When did you purchase this car?
November 94?
November of 94. We're in 2000 now. You had a car at that time. Is that right, according to your answer?
Yes, I
You had a
traded in.
300ZX.
I had a fully paid off 300ZX, and I traded it in for the Pathfinder.
That's incorrect, Your Honor. We had a Stanza right before.
In between, I'm sorry. I traded in for a Stanza. We had the Stanza for 9 months, then we traded in the Stanza for the Pathfinder.
That we've both been paying on.
That you've both been paying on.
Correct, Your Honor.
And how much is left on it?
I believe $3,000, Your Honor.
You have any reason to believe that it's all paid off? You say, in your answer, you say it was all paid off.
It is paid off.
It is paid off?
Yes.
Due to the fact that we put the balance on my credit card, Your Honor. That's why it's paid off.
Did you pay off the car by taking money out of his bank?
He made a student loan because he was not employed at the time, and that student loan was money for us to live off of.
That's incorrect, Your Honor. That's totally incorrect.
Were you employed at the time?
I was a full-time student, Your Honor, and I was receiving...
Employed was the word.
I was receiving unemployment for retraining for my profession, which is plumbing designing. And at the time, I was receiving an income through the state for unemployment retraining.
All right. When you purchased this 1994 car,
92, Your
92
Honor.
car in
Yes, ma'am.
94, did you use it as a family for the last 6 years?
Basically on the weekends, but during the week she would use it.
And how long was the note on the car?
It was a 3-year note, I believe,
Give
Your
it
Honor.
back to him. 3-year note. What, 1994? That brings you up to 1997.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I never even knew she had pictures of other men in intimate positions.
I'm not interested in that, sir.
I never looked at that
That
stuff. And she had that in my boy's bedroom. I mean, she had pictures of her and other men in our son's bedroom.
There we go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ramon Alvarado claims former live-in lover of 9 years and mother of his 2 children, Randy Shannon Ayala, owes him for some personal items. Randy says he owes her for a wave runner and Sea-Doo.
All right, let's get to your counterclaim. What do we have here? A 1990 Yamaha Wave Runner, a 1990 Zima trailer, and a 1990 Sea-Doo. Let's start with those things.
They're in both our names, all 3 items.
Yeah,
And I've heard from a friend that he's trying to sell them now for $5,000.
yeah.
And he's never discussed it with me. I don't know if I'm getting half of this. I don't know what he's...
I don't know either. He didn't sell them yet. Didn't
put
sell
up for
them yet.
sale sign. I mean, my name's on it too. And
So he can't sell them without your name unless he forges your name,
That's correct.
right? So when he goes to sell those things, unless he forges your name, which I assume he doesn't want to do because he wouldn't want to go through retraining again, then what's going to happen is he's going to have to say, I want to sell this, would you sign off on it? And you'll say, how much are you selling it for? I want half.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Your Honor, if I may.
What?
My father let me borrow the money for the trailer, for one of the trailer and one of the jet skis. I still own the money. I told the defendant that she's more than welcome to have them if she were to pay my dad. I just don't think it's fair for her to get something that my dad lent me the money to borrow. And the
Mr.
wave runner,
Alvarado, when you enter into a relationship that is what I consider a permanent relationship, when you have one for 9 years and you make 2 children together,
right.
you don't come in with a shopping bag full of problems to courts and say, you figure it out. Right now you got a problem, and your problem is that her name is on the title to these things. If she doesn't want to sign off on it, then you
Right.
can't sell it.
Right.
Then you may keep them as museum items and give them to your grandchildren.
Right.
Understand?
Right. My name's on the Pathfinder also, Your Honor.
Oh, just a second. Your name's on the Pathfinder. As far as I'm concerned, you bought this car 6 years ago. The car was paid off in 1997. If you took out money, and then she bought a Sentra, and then she bought this, I'm just explaining something to you, sir. We're not going back to the year of the flood
Right.
to retrace, because courts are busy.
Right.
To retrace these things, it's just not going to happen.
No, I wasn't asking you to do it,
Fine.
Your Honor.
Good. Now, all right, so we've taken care of your counterclaim with regard to the Wave Runner, the trailer, and the Sea-Doo. Now, say you want $650 that was mistakenly deposited into his IRA account instead of mine.
Yes.
What is that?
Back in April of '99, we both signed up for IRA accounts with our financial advisor to do automatic debits from our checking account. His checks got assigned to my application for the IRA, and my checks got assigned to his application. And so his automatic debits were coming out of my checking account, and mine were going out of his checking account. Once I was aware of the fact...
Just 1 second, madam. You each signed up for $50. Is that what you're telling me?
Every month.
Every month. Well, if he paid his 50 and you paid your 50, that means that
But it would be equal. Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
But he closed his accounts. He closed his checking account 2 months into the automatic withdrawals.
Fine, then you have to get in touch with the bank.
No, he needs to sign to transfer over the IRAs in his IRAs in my name and mine in his name.
Is what you're telling me the bank made a mistake?
No, the financial advisor guy made the mistake.
Sue him. Sue him.
All he needs to do is to sign his name saying that he's aware of the mistake.
Then
and
he should
won't
do it.
He won't do it.
This is the first I've ever heard of this, Your Honor. I don't have. If it's her money, she can have it. I don't need it.
Fine. Then you will go with her to the financial
Sure, I
advisor,
don't
and if it's
I
her
don't have a
money,
problem.
fine. Otherwise,
I don't have a problem
sue
with
your
that.
financial advisor.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Raymond also took $1,700 worth of savings bonds, $1,200 worth that belonged to me, and $500 that
God.
belonged to my son.
Dude, you're
Yes.
outrageous.
Okay. $1,700 were your savings bonds? Were they in your name?
Yes, my name / my son, Callie Alvarado.
Dude. Your Honor, I would never do that.
Before he moved out, he went through the whole house, ransacked the house, going
Your
through
Honor, I
anything
left
and
my
everything.
stuff there, Your Honor.
Just a
Because
second. Shh.
we were currently going through child custody stuff through the court, and
Yeah.
he wanted to
Right,
find anything and everything
That's not right.
to go against me, to make me look bad. And he found my savings bonds because I've always had them hidden, and now they're not there.
So you don't know where they are?
That's not right.
They're no longer in their place.
I would never
Listen
do
to
that.
me.
I would never do
So
that.
why? I know you. I would never do anything like that. I don't know whether you would or you wouldn't. She has no proof that you took them, but all
Right.
she has to do is she has to report them to the U.S. Treasury that they were
really?
lost or stolen.
Right.
Because if they're in your name / for one of your children,
Right.
he can do nothing with them if he in fact took them.
Right.
And all you have to do is report them
Okay.
stolen, and you will get replacements.
Oh, okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
A gecko, that's like a big lizard.
It's actually a very small lizard. They range about a foot to 1.5 feet.
To me, that's a big lizard. Little ones, the ones that you see, little salamanders, you know, that you see, they're real cute, foot and a half. That's a big lizard.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ramon Alvarado is suing the mother of his 2 children, Randy Shannon Ayala, for some personal items.
Yes.
Your Honor, in our 9 years, Your Honor, I deposited my check directly to our joint account, which I never had a separate checking account. I never dealt with the money. I never dealt with the bonds. I never even knew she had pictures of other men in intimate positions.
I'm not
You know.
interested in that, sir.
Because I never
doesn't
looked
take-
at that
listen to me.
stuff. I never looked at that stuff. And she had that in my boy's bedroom. I mean, she had pictures of her and other men in our son's bedroom.
There we go.
Letters and stuff.
Your case, Mr. Alvarado, is dismissed. I've explained why to you with regard to what you are suing, property that you are suing her for. And Miss Ayala, I've just explained to you why he cannot sell the Sea-Doo, etc., without your permission. And if you want the bonds, write a letter to the U.S. Treasury. That's all. Both cases and the counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Whatever the judge said was fine with me.
He's nothing but a joke. I mean, obviously, he displayed his irrational behavior at the end, and he's a joke.
And now the next case.
All parties on Franks versus Goff. Step forward, please.
26-year-old radio producer Steve Franks is suing former friend, 26-year-old mortgage broker Heather Goff, for a loan and a U-Haul rental.
Mr. Franks, you claim that in a time of financial difficulty, you loaned the defendant some money and paid for some moving expenses for her from where you live, which is where, in Chicago?
Correct.
To Florida, where she wanted to move with her son. She says there were no loans, just a series of gifts that you made to her. Mr. Franks, how do you know the defendant?
She is a friend. I've known her for about 2 years.
Did you ever date her?
No.
So tell me the circumstances surrounding you making this initial loan.
The initial was a check I have for $2,000. What it did is it covered a lot of back bills that she had. It was right after Christmas time, and she had spent a lot of money on her son, and it left her short on rent and other bills. And I asked her if she would like to borrow the money, and she said yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I trusted him. New Year's Eve, I passed out on the couch, and I woke up in the middle of the night to him trying to do things to me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Steve Franks says former friend Heather Goff stiffed him on a series of loans. Heather says they were all gifts.
Tell me about it. I want to know exactly. She had a lot of loans. She had a lot of bills.
Right.
Where were you when
She
you had
was
this
where-
discussion?
We were at her house. I just came over to visit, and we were just discussing her financial situation, and she was crying, and she's saying that her son's the only person in the world she has, and she has no other friends, and I just wanted to help out. I was
So what did you
I'm
say?
in a good financial position.
I just want you to tell me what you said to her. She's sitting there on the couch crying. You're in a good financial position, according to you. So what did you say to her, Mr. Franks?
I asked her if she would like to borrow the money, any money that she needed to get herself on her feet. And
what did
pull
she
herself.
say?
She said yes.
Did you come up with a figure?
Yes, we talked about it a little bit, and I said, well, how about $2,000? And that was supposed to leave her even a couple $100 extra to play with.
What was the payment plan that you made with her to return this money?
We didn't set any kind of payment plans. We were good friends. It wasn't something we discussed. She would pay me as much as she could whenever she could.
I mean, was that discussed?
Yes.
When was it discussed?
At that point, too.
Well,
and
tell
at
me
many
about
other
that.
points throughout our
Well,
friendship.
no. I want to know about this
Night?
This night. Get to the language used.
The language used would be that she would not have to repay me until after she moved. We knew she wanted to move. She was going to change her life. She's going to be in a better financial position after she moved. And that at that point, she would be more structured. She would be able to make some kind of arrangements.
Okay. So then she's getting ready to move to Florida, and you say you rented a U-Haul for her?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you rent the U-Haul for her?
She also did not have the money at that point.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding that move.
She did not have the money to put up for a U-Haul. And the circumstances were, we're talking about it, and again, I asked her if she would like to borrow the money for the U-Haul. And she also said yes. And
when was this?
That was the night before this receipt right here.
Okay, can I see it, please?
Your Honor, if you'd also like to see the proof that I did pay for these, I have the credit card that matches the numbers on.
No, I believe you, sir.
Okay.
I believe you. She doesn't even dispute it.
I have
So
no
what
dispute
you
on that.
claim she owes you is $2,000 for the loan, which you
Right.
have a check, $238 and $374.
I believe the other item you should have in front of you is for a transmission job. The transmission on her vehicle went out right before she was scheduled to move.
Let's hear about the transmission.
The transmission and actually the U-Haul were discussed about the same time. They were happened at the same time. She took the truck to the transmission shop, and I knew that she wasn't going to have the money to get it out. And the night came before, again, she was crying on my shoulder, said, I'm not going to be able to do this, Steve, and her move would have been denied if she could not have done it.
So what? So what?
So I felt I should be a good friend and do it. I inherited a lot of money, and it was not a burden on me to loan her this money.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now I'll hear you.
Okay, we were friends for about 2 years, just like you said. I was in a lot of financial distress. I had a roommate who had been taking advantage of me. I had somebody break into my house and steal my money. And I had somebody steal my car, and it got impounded, and, you know, just a bunch of different things compounded together, and I had problems. I never asked him for anything.
So you didn't mind taking all these things?
Well, no, I did not. I'll answer that.
I'm glad you answered that. What about paying him back for some of these things?
We never, see, it was always a gift. It was always
what about paying him back as a moral person?
As a moral person.
As a moral person, let's talk about the fact that you got to Florida and you cut off all contact with him, okay?
Okay. On Christmas Eve, he confessed his love to me and whatnot. And then on New Year's Eve, we went out as friends. I trusted him.
Just a minute, hold on a second. So Christmas Eve, he tells you that he loves you. And what do you say to him?
I said, I can't do that. That's, you know, I don't feel that way. We're great friends, and I'll always be your friend, you know, and went on like that, and he agreed to that. He didn't have a problem with that. He said that we could continue to be friends and there would be no strange feelings because of what he said. New Year's Eve came along, and I trusted him. We went out together to be with friends and whatnot, and we came back to my apartment like we always did. We're friends. You know, I passed out on the couch, and I woke up in the middle of the night to him trying to do things to me.
That's on New Year's Eve?
Yes, and I was very intoxicated. I passed out.
Then 4 days later, you borrowed $2,000 from him. You took $2,000 from him.
I did not borrow any money
Just
from
a second.
him.
4 days later, after he told you that he loved you, and you found him, according to you, groping you on the couch New Year's Eve, 4 days later, you took $2,000 from him.
I needed help.
Pay it back! Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,612. That's it.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She totally caught me off guard. I didn't expect her to be like that.
Well, it's always, you know, good to win. I came out the winner and got some of my money back.
I think he feels bad for what he tried to do on New Year's Eve.
She says it happened one way, I could say it happened another. We could go round and round on that.
I trusted him. He was my friend. I didn't think that would ever happen.
There's no doubt that I had feelings for her. It was, maybe I wanted things to go beyond friendship.
But sick.
And now the next case.
All parties on Witt versus Smith. Step forward.
18-year-old homemaker Melissa Witt is suing former employer, 30-year-old vacuum company owner Mark Smith for unpaid wages.
You sell vacuum cleaners, is that correct?
Correct.
And you were hired, and the conditions of your employment, as far as I understand them, were as follows. You got an advance each month of $1,800. And for that $1,800, you had to do 60 vacuum cleaner demonstrations with certain guidelines, I assume who they were and whether they were people who might really buy a vacuum cleaner. You worked for them for 1 month. According to you, you made one commission of $200. And the way it worked was, as you sold a vacuum cleaner, you made a commission. The money that you made in commission was deducted from the $1,800. So far, correct?
Somewhat, yes.
Where did I go wrong?
The monies, the $1,800, are not advanced to Mrs. Witt at all.
But she would get them for making the 60 demonstrations.
Correct.
Whether she sold any vacuum cleaners or not.
Correct.
Okay. And you worked for them for a month, and you say you performed your service, and then you were fired. You took an unauthorized day off from work, and you were let go. You are suing him for $1,600, which is the difference between what the $1,800 less the $200 commission. And you want an extra $2,000 because you say you were forced to borrow money. Because you got evicted, you couldn't pay your rent, you had to borrow money to live because he didn't give you your salary. Your defense is what?
Mrs. Witt did not complete her 60 presentations. She did sell one of our products, and the commission due on that was $200. Her presentations fell short by 6.
How do you know that?
I keep a pretty standard appointment log of every presentation that all of my customer service reps go out on. According to my demo log, she's completed 54 presentations. I had all of her appointments verified, at which time information came from my, at that time, office manager that she has set up false presentations with family members and other people that she's known, which I didn't give her credit for because they were not presentations that met my qualifications.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why are we here, Mr. Smith?
Because Mrs. Witt insisted on taking me to court.
I mean, instead of what? Not getting paid pursuant to your agreement?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melissa Witt says former employer Mark Smith owes her for unpaid wages. Mark says Melissa falsified her appointment book, so she's not getting paid.
Well, what were your qualifications, and how will your qualifications relate to the plaintiff?
My qualifications, if it's an appointment that is not set up by my company itself, that goes through my income verification process, it's to be approved by me personally.
Is that in writing someplace?
Yes, it is.
May I see it?
It's part of our terms and agreements booklet. And I also have her, in particular, terms and agreements booklet with me as well, that she has signed.
Okay, now did you go over with Miss Witt the names of the people that you were disqualifying her for on her presentation list? Because I assume you gave him a list of 60. Is that right?
Yes, there was 8 out of his, I have his demo book, and there was 8 that were not on his demo book, and he said that if I had them call or write letters, all of them did so, except for one because I couldn't get a hold of him, but that still leaves 7, which is over the 60 he says I don't have.
Okay, now of the 7, you don't know if they qualified.
They were demos that he gave to me. There was only a few that they're called friends, neighbors, and relatives, people that you know, that get you started on it, that get you to where you know how to do the demo.
Well, how many of those did you do?
I'd say about 5 or 6. I've got my mom and my mother-in-law and people like that, but we were told that we were getting credit for that because they were at practice.
Is that right?
No, Your Honor.
I mean, that's not on here.
No, but that was what was told to us when we first started the job. When we first started, and also
Did you sign this? Did you sign an agreement with him?
Terms and agreement, yes.
It doesn't say that you can do 5 or 6 presentations to friends, neighbors, and relatives unless they have certain qualifications.
They have to make over so much a month and things like that, and all mine did, so they'd be able to afford it.
What I have to take a look at, I mean, this is going to be a laborious process, but the other thing that Ms. Witt says, that you signed an agreement with her to pay her. She says he even typed up an agreement and signed it. Did you do that?
The thing that's been typed up, Your Honor, is my terms and agreements books that she has
No,
signed.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an agreement. Can I see that, please?
Yes. This actually involves my mother-in-law. He signed this. That was an agreement that they had between each other, and that's my witness.
Just a minute. Take a look at this, sir.
This is an agreement that was reached before my demo book was verified with her clients, with the people that I verified her demo book with. I had a stampede of her family.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Now give it back to me. What was your last day of employment?
On the 15th of May.
2 weeks later, you signed this, sir, indicating that you agreed to a debt of $1,600. And you agreed to have the debt completely paid in 1 calendar month. Right?
If it was found out that she completed her 60 presentations.
That's not what it says.
Well, then, yes, Your Honor, that is what I agreed to.
Then that's what you pay her. Why are we here, Mr. Smith?
Because Mrs. Witt insisted on taking me to court.
You mean instead of what? Not getting paid pursuant to your agreement?
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
So $1,600 you owe her. Not $3,600, madam.
Well, I lost my apartment because I never got paid. My landlady evicted me because my husband was laid off, so we couldn't pay me his rent. We had to move and everything else because I couldn't pay my rent.
He's not responsible for that.
But he is responsible for paying me, which was never done. I mean, we're talking it's September, and I still have not seen my money yet. And it's been hard, and I've been having to borrow money from my in-laws and a little bit from my parents.
He's not legally responsible for your getting evicted.
Can my witness speak now?
About what?
She has some stuff that she dealt with Mark that I have nothing to do with.
I'm not interested in that. He owes you $1,600. That's what he's got to pay you. But not the cost of you moving and cost of borrowing money. Who'd you borrow money from? Your mother-in-law? Mm-hmm. Good. That's what mother-in-laws are for. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600.
All right, excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I just point blank told him he owed her the money. He's going to pay her one way or the other. And
he did.
I was being accused of owing more money than I actually owed, and everything turned out fine.
Well, I got what was owed to me, and that was the most important thing. At least I got my pay.
Judge Judy rocked.
39-year-old contractor Richard Calmetta is suing former friend, 23-year-old medical marketer Sarah Ann Morris for failing to pay him for painting her condo and for airline tickets to South Beach.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 182 on the calendar in the matter of Calmetta versus Morris. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Calmetta, according to your complaint, sir, you met the defendant at Home Depot.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you just struck up a conversation with the defendant.
Yeah, she was standing in front of me in line.
And she told you that she was buying stuff to paint her house or to do her house, and you volunteered to help her, but then indicated to her that the cost for doing that would be how much? $1,500?
Well, Your Honor, actually, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I don't mean to change that. But what had happened was I had given her my card because I was sort of attracted to her.
I assume. I've read the complaint.
It wasn't more or less, I told her she did need electrical work. I was an electrical contractor. I do building, I do painting, I do remodeling, but my primary job is an electrical contractor. So I handed her my card, and I did make a comment that is sometimes it's easier to hire someone to do the work than try to do it yourself.
So?
Well, about 3 hours later, I went and finished the job I was on, and I got to the driveway of my home, and I got a phone call on my cell phone. It was her, and she had tried to attempt to paint the condo herself, and she was having a little trouble. Apparently, the paint wasn't sticking to the ceiling, and she was getting blotches, and I sort of told her, I says, well, try to smooth them out.
Well, what did she ask you? She said, how?
Well, she asked me if I knew someone who could come out. Because she knew that my primary trade was electrical, that if I knew a painter, if I could help her out. And I says, well, sure, I do, but it's going to be very difficult to get someone to come out on a drop of a dime. You know, this is Friday night, you know, and figured I'd try to make a few phone calls, and nobody was calling me back.
You didn't make any phone calls. You decided to go over there yourself.
Yeah, I did. Well, I did call one person. I tried to. I called one person.
You thought about calling somebody, but you went over yourself.
Yes.
Mr. Calmetta, let's keep it simple, sir.
Yes,
simple
yes,
and honest. Yes.
So
okay.
I ended up going over there, yes, and I noticed that her rollers were incorrect. She had the incorrect rollers. The paint was a cheap brand, and I asked her, I said, let's go to Home Depot, let's get a better quality paint, and let's get some rollers. So we went to the store, we picked up the correct supplies, we got back, and I did spend that whole, I got there from 4, I have the whole job itemized here.
No, just tell me the stories.
Okay, I'm just...
You didn't itemize the job that day or
no,
the day after.
it was itemized down the road.
It was itemized down the road, close to this lawsuit.
Yeah, right after...
All right, so let's... Mr. Calmetta, let's try to keep it simple. So you went to this store, you got better paint, and you got a couple of really good rollers. And then you went back and started to help her paint the house, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear.
Well, we spent the whole week in there painting because it was a decent sized job. I had my employee here come by on Saturday. I was there till 11:30 Friday painting, and we returned Saturday in the afternoon after I was done with my regular jobs, and we spent. Well, I had left for 2 hours. He was there for the first 2 hours while I had went and did a service call. I returned. We were there together for about 5 more hours, and I stayed later to try to finish up the job on Saturday.
What day are you talking about?
Shh. Sorry. Go ahead.
That was May 6th on a Saturday. And then the last day I was there was Sunday, which was May 7th. And I was only there for 3.5 hours.
Okay, so you were there. Did you finish the job?
Yeah, we finished the whole job. It was like, she wanted 2 different colors, so that took a little bit of taping.
You finished the job.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
And then what happened?
Well, there was also, things happened, and we talked about possibly going to South Beach with me. Okay, we're going to
Going
take
to Florida?
Yes, Your Honor. And I had purchased some tickets for us to go.
When did you do that?
Actually, it was Monday.
I mean, right after the weekend?
Yeah.
Right after the weekend, you bonded with the good rollers.
At least I thought we did.
And?
And when it got closer to the trip, I'll try to make this short, something happened to her grandmother.
How much later was the trip scheduled?
Well, it was scheduled to leave on the 19th of May.
So within a couple of weeks?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see each other between that time, between the Monday that you finished the job and the day you were supposed to leave on the trip? Did you go out? Did you date? Did you go to dinner? Anything?
Well, we were both quite busy.
So the answer is no?
No.
Okay. And?
And like I said, 3 days before the flight, she had called and said that well, I tried to get in hold of her. She's kind of mad. I called her work. She didn't like the fact that I called her at work. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. She was at her grandmother's house for a couple days. Apparently she was sick and she couldn't make the trip, and she ended up canceling on me, which in a way I did go on the trip by myself. I have the tickets, that I purchased for her, which I'm not too concerned with about the trip, to be honest with you. Even though I put it on the sheet, I wasn't really going to try to make a deal out of it, because I did go on a trip and I had a great time. The day I got there, I met a beautiful young lady and had a great time in South Beach, and I was kind of glad I went. So it turned out real well. So more or less, it's the trip's not that big of a concern. It's just more or less the work that I did.
So you are withdrawing your claim for the plane ticket?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So far, that's a good idea, because I didn't hear anything about, well, I'll pay half.
Yeah, exactly. So I figured that much. So
Perfect. All right. Now, with regard to the painting, I also didn't hear anything, Mr. Calmetta, about how much she was going to pay you or your helper.
I was going to tell you that. I don't know how you can figure as far as the Friday, because we didn't discuss the rates till about the middle of the job on Friday. She goes, well, what do you charge?
She asked you what your fees were. That doesn't necessarily mean that she was agreeing to pay your fees. But
Well,
she asked how much.
When they asked me what my fees are, I'm not there to do this for free. I wasn't there to paint the place for free. I more or less made it clear that $75 to come out, and it's $50 per man per hour. Those are my daytime rates. Anything after 5 o'clock, like I said, I have it all itemized, it's double time after 5. Saturday, it's time and a half, and Sunday, it's double time. And I did make it clear to her, I even said it'd probably run about $1,500.
Okay.
And so,
Now,
but it did come a little bit more than that.
Now, when you told her it was going to run her $1,500, what did she say to you?
She had no problem with that.
No, what did she say?
Hi.
She said okay. She had no problem with
Okay,
being
now,
involved.
Miss Morris.
Yes.
Let's hear from you. And we don't have to concentrate on the trip, because the trip he's withdrawing, because
I understand that.
he had a great time there with somebody else.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He already had the tickets bought, Your Honor. He came to my house with somebody else's name on the ticket saying I was supposed to take her, but instead I chose you.
Is that true?
Well, I was supposed to take some other girl that I had met, but
Oh, yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Richard Calmetta says former friend Sarah Ann Morris owes him for painting her condo and for airline tickets to South Beach.
Now, Miss Morris.
Yes.
Let's hear about the painting. You hooked up at
Your
Home
Honor.
Depot. I assume all of that is correct, that you met there, that you called him to come over and take a look and see if he could help you, that you did, in fact, go back and buy different paints, different rollers, etc. He came back to your house and started working. So far, is that all correct?
To a point. He gave the wrong dates. It's April 28th.
Who
and 29th.
cares?
My family was supposed to help me, and they canceled on me. So I was desperate to a point that I needed to get it done. I'm just a go-getter. Once I say I'm going to do something, I like to accomplish it.
Okay, so you called him.
Yes, I did.
You didn't expect him to do it for nothing, did you?
No, I didn't.
But
he-
you just, because you just met the man at Home Depot.
Right, I expected to pay him. No, yes, I did, Your
Oh,
Honor.
so how much did you pay him?
I offered him Saturday $200. He refused to take it because he began liking me.
well, ma'am, I don't. I do a service call.
He wouldn't take the money because he knew I'm a young lady. I just got started on my own, and he didn't want to take from me. He makes his own money. He doesn't need $200.
Well, this man didn't like you. You were the helper?
Yeah,
Right?
he's my employee.
Just a second. He was the employee. He was there painting with him. He wasn't crazy about you. What did you think? He was just coming along because he had nothing to do for the weekend?
No, Your Honor, I
Well,
wasn't.
what did you pay him?
I didn't pay them anything because he told me he didn't want anything.
What about him?
He was just
He
his
works on the
follower.
right
He spoke for both of them.
Miss Morris,
Yes.
pay careful attention, madam.
Will do.
You called him because you needed somebody to paint for you.
I told him I was, yes.
And you expected to have that done at a fee.
Right.
I assume you were helping.
Yes, I was.
Okay. She was helping.
Yes, you.
And that isn't the usual standard fare. I mean, I've had my apartment painted, and I don't remember being right in there in the thick of things with a paintbrush when somebody's painting my apartment. Like, if you went to do an electrical job, sir, you wouldn't say to the person whose house you were in, come over here and hold these wires because you're going to hold the wires while I hang the fixture. You come, they leave, and so this was a little different.
Because we were on time and material.
No.
Yes.
It was a little different.
Well, we were on T&M, though. I did discuss as far as, she was trying to
Mr.
say some time on
Calmetta,
the job. Well,
it was a little different.
Yes, it was.
And it was a little different, compounded by the fact that the day after you completed the job, you made an investment in plane tickets to take it to South Beach. How many times have you done that when you did your electrical work? Right?
Yes, right.
All right. So it's a little bit different. You see, my problem, Miss Morris, is that you can't be a total taker. I mean, if he's smitten with you and he wants to invest a weekend helping you paint your condo, that's fine.
I agree.
But this man deserves to be paid, especially when it certainly appeared that after the painting was done, you had nothing to do with him, even after he bought the tickets and then bailed out. Right?
Correct. But
right.
A lot of things in between that we're not discussing right now happened between mine and Richard's relationship, or friendship, I should say, to make me not want to go on this trip with him.
But I withdrew the trip.
I understand.
So drop that.
Just a second. That may be. Don't you understand that a man who is smitten with a woman, whether he's good, whether he's bad, whether he's got quirks, whether he's dresses up in odd clothes in the evening, it doesn't make any difference. You know, he feels as if he had made an investment because you led him on over the weekend. You led him on sufficiently for him to plan a trip with you that you initially said you would go on. Initially. What are you shaking your head? No. You mean you didn't initially say that you would go with him?
Not really. I was too good to be true. I didn't believe it.
Just a second. Don't tell me too good to be true. You initially said that you would go with him. You didn't go buy tickets to South Beach.
He already had the tickets bought, Your Honor. He came to my house with the tickets a week before we were supposed to go with somebody else's name on the ticket saying, I was supposed to take her, but instead I chose you.
Is that true?
Show her the tickets.
Is that true?
Well, I was supposed to take somebody else on a different date, on a different flight, some other girl that I'd met. But it has nothing to do with...
Would you step up here, sir?
Your Honor, it has nothing to do with her, though.
Guys,
I mean...
Yeah, please. It has enough to do that you put it in your complaint, sir. Tell me your last name.
Szynski.
Mr. Szynski, you work with or for the plaintiff?
Yeah.
How many hours did you spend approximately at the defendant's house?
Saturday from 4 to about 11 o'clock.
Just on Saturday?
Yep.
Okay. Let me see your job estimate that you've made up right before court. Okay. Now, you say that you get $50 an hour.
Yes, Your Honor. That's standard contractor's rates.
For you and for...
It's per man per hour. The way
per man per hour.
We charge 75...
Mr. Calmetta, I don't believe you, sir. I don't believe that you had a discussion with her prior to you doing the job, fixing the fees, including $50 an hour for you and $50 an hour for Mr. Szynski over here.
I have overhead as far as
Pay attention,
goes.
sir.
Yes, I understand that, but that's
Pay
what I charge
attention,
as an employer, though.
I don't believe you had an agreement with her.
I had told her what the rates were.
I had told... Listen to me, sir. I don't believe that you had a contract with her. There are too many things that do not ring true to me, including the fact that you prepared this right before you came to court. You had no signed contract. When you do an electrical job for somebody, Mr. Calmetta, you prepare this first, right? Pay attention.
Your Honor, I don't.
Mr. Calmetta.
You're not saying that... You want me
Mr. Calmetta,
you're telling me how I do my business.
don't try to talk over me, sir. You're going to lose.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You better make up your mind quickly what we're going to do about this situation. It's not going to go away. If I don't hear from you by the end of the day, I'm going to make your life miserable.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Richard Calmetta says former friend Sarah Ann Morris owes him for painting her condo and for airline tickets to South Beach.
Mr. Calmetta, if you are an electrical contractor or a building contractor, and I have dealt with both.
I understand, but
when you do a job, you outline what the job is, cost of hours, cost of paint and materials, cost of electrical supplies. You sign it, and they sign it.
That's on a bid. This was not a bid.
That is not a bid, sir. I have never dealt with anybody on a big job for $1,500 or $2,000 where we didn't have a contract, even a painter. The painter writes down what color they're going to paint the foyer, what color they're going to paint the living room, what kind of paint they're going to use. I sign, they sign, I have a contract. And if you're in business and if you have employees, that's how you do your electrical work as well. And if you don't do it, then you're not a very good businessman. This was done later. I don't believe that you had a contract with her, but I do believe that you are responsible to pay Mr. Szynski. Do you understand? You can't be a taker.
I don't want to be a taker.
Good. So how much do you think it was worth for you to have your condo painted over the weekend at the drop of a dime? You tell me how much you anticipated paying somebody else.
The estimate that I show for the work that they both did came out to about $300 worth of work. I'll be willing to pay
That's ridiculous.
Richard $300. His
I do that
partner.
on a service call, Your Honor.
I have a tape here, also, Your Honor, that has him threatening me and also saying that he did the paint job out of the goodness of his heart because he liked me.
Oh, well, let me hear it. Let me hear that part. I want to hear the
It's three
threats.
different messages because it...
I just want to hear that he did the paint job out of the goodness of his heart because he liked you.
Okay.
Yes, Sarah. I'm going to need to hear from you today. We're going to have to figure out what you're going to do about this situation. This needs to be taken care of. I gave you my time. I spent a whole weekend over there painting your place. Out of the goodness of my heart. My time is very, very, very valuable. I did that out of the goodness of my heart. Spend time with you because I liked you. What a mistake that was. Knew when I handed you my card that I was interested in you. That's why I even came over. You weren't attracted to me. You should have never had me come out there. You knew why I came out there. Why I stayed out there. Then the situation the way it went, you should have never accepted an invitation to a trip. But you did. Went and spent money on tickets. I'm not going to eat these tickets. The trip is Wednesday. You're either going to take the tickets and go on the trip, because I'm not going alone. Now again, I'm not on a drop of a dime. I'm going to find somebody to go on this trip here in a couple days. Now I'm not going by myself. You better make up your mind quickly what we're going to do about this situation. This is not going to go away. I'm going to make your life miserable. Not only will I make it miserable by suing the out of you, and maybe some other things too, I'm going to pull some strings at your job. Because I'm going to spend the whole day tomorrow in a mission. On a mission to get back at you for what you've done to me. Now, I don't want to have to do all these. But if I don't hear from you by the end of the day, first thing I'm going to do tomorrow, I'm going to pull some strings, because I know people. I don't want to have to do this, but I will. Now, if I don't hear from you, Sarah, by the end of the day, we'll hit the thing.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Mr. Szynski, you came here as a witness today. Is that
Yes.
right, sir? Well, you're going to leave here the owner of a judgment because Ms. Morris indicated that minimally she thinks the job is worth $300. It's probably worth closer to $600 or $1,000 to do the entire job. But I believe that Mr. Calmetta was not doing this job to be paid. He was doing this job for another reason. However, you were not. The court will enter a judgment, but the judgment will be paid, Ms. Morris, to Mr. Szynski in the amount of $300. Your claim, Mr. Calmetta, is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Right.
I didn't know I'd end up with the money.
I'm glad that his coworker got paid the extra $300. I think he was well deserved of it.
There's no way somebody's going to paint that much of a condo, two different colors, two coats, for $300, $600.
It was a really stressful situation, something I don't ever want to go through again.
While we were painting, she hit on me.
No, that's incorrect. I was never gave him he was reading more into anything than he wanted to believe we were, and we weren't. And I wasn't trying to give in off any missed signals on that whatsoever.
She kept telling me how sexy I looked while I was painting, and then I put the roller down, I turned, and she hugged me, started kissing me. Next thing I know, she never let me leave the condominium. So I spent the weekend with her.
He didn't really stay the weekend with me, but he was over there majority of the weekend.
That evidence should never have been brought into this courtroom.
He keeps calling and harassing her.
Prove that that's my voice, that's my tape, that, you know, that was me on that tape.
She had to get a restraining order on him.
Everything I said on there was true.
You know, nothing's for free. Everything's for something. And be careful out there. It's a dangerous world.
And now the next case.
All parties on Brunner versus Coley Jones. Step forward, please.
12-year-old Sherry Brunner and her mother, 48-year-old daycare provider Lori Brunner, says Sherry was discriminated against by Junior Football League commissioners Calvin Coley and John Jones.
Is your claim that your daughter, I assume this daughter, was the victim of gender discrimination by the defendants when she was cut from the football team?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what this is all about.
Yes.
Tell me your first name.
Sherry.
What happened to your leg?
I had surgery.
For what?
I had a birthmark that was supposed to be cancerous.
When did you have that surgery?
August 11th.
Okay. Sherry, when for the first time did you try out for the football team?
I think it was 98.
Is this a school football team?
No.
A league?
Yes.
And were the defendants the coaches at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did you play at all the first year?
First year, yes.
How many other women were on the team?
No one. I was
Just
the only
you?
one.
Do you like football?
Yes, I do.
And you got to play?
Yes.
When were there supposed to be the tryouts for the second year?
I think August.
Now, according to what I've read, Sherry, they have something that the defendants call Hell Week.
Right.
You know what that is?
Yes, I do.
Tell me what it is.
For a whole week that you do drills, push-ups, running, all that kind of stuff. It's like what you really don't want to do.
And everybody does that?
Yes.
But you didn't?
The first week, because I was at...
First week?
Right.
Tell me why you didn't go.
Because I was at New York visiting my grandma.
Did you discuss that with your coaches?
I discussed that with JJ, and he
Who's
said...
JJ?
I'm JJ.
Okay, you told JJ that you were not going to be there for Hell Week?
Right. And he said that that would be no problem.
How long did you spend with your grandmother?
For about 2 months.
So you were in New York the entire summer vacation?
Yes.
And when did you have to be back in school?
September 1st.
When was Hell Week?
The latter part of July.
You didn't return until when?
August 1st, the second week of practice.
Why didn't you come back a week early for your practice?
Well, what happens is my grandma already scheduled it for like a long time. She has frequent flyer mileage, and she schedules it for a long time. She schedules it from a long time before, so I knew when I was going to be back and everything.
Yeah, but you can change a frequent flyer ticket. You pay a little bit of a penalty.
It's difficult to change it.
No, you can't. You pay a penalty, like $50, and they let you change the date a week later, a week earlier. It's not a problem.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Nobody who made the team missed the entire week of Hell Week.
Nobody.
Right?
Right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 12-year-old Sherry Brunner says Football League commissioners Calvin Coley and John Jones discriminated against her by cutting her from the team.
So you didn't go to Hell Week, a week that everybody doesn't like, and you came back the following week.
Right.
And when you came back the following week, what happened?
I was supposed to be conditioned.
And what does that mean?
I have to have 10 hours of conditioning before I can put pads on, helmet, get my full gear.
Okay, and what happened?
Sometimes I ran for the whole practice. I did everything they asked me to.
And how many cuts were there?
I don't know.
How many cuts were there?
5.
Sherry was one of them.
Yes.
And I assume that since she was the only girl, the other 4 were boys.
Yes.
Were any of the other 4 boys that were cut boys that had been in the first year?
Yes.
How many?
One other veteran.
Now, were you told by Sherry sometime in April that she wasn't going to be able to be there for Hell Week?
She mentioned that to us, and we told her at that time that the prior year that she played in '98, we didn't have cuts because we didn't have that many kids. Our max allowance for kids is 35, and we were going over. Every year we were going higher and higher. And we explained then that that was a crucial time and she needed to be there because we had to anticipate more than 35 during that coming season.
You have your records with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Take a look. Tell me if any of the other 40 people missed the entire week of Hell Week.
We might need to ask the coach himself.
Okay,
He need to be the
take a
most
look.
important.
Tell me your name.
I'm Shani Guzman.
Tell me what you do for the team.
I was the assistant coach for running backs and quarterbacks. There's one kid here that missed 1 day, and another child that missed the first 2 days, but they made the team.
So the answer is nobody else missed the entire week. One missed 1 day, one missed 2 days, but nobody who made the team missed the entire week of Hell Week.
Nobody.
So prove to me discrimination when your coach is a woman, when nobody else made the team who had missed the entire week. Convince me that you were discriminated against.
I ran for about the whole practice, doing nothing but running, the whole field.
Yes,
Everybody was watching me,
yes.
and that's about all I did.
She didn't get to join in most of the exercises. She did some, but that didn't happen to anybody else.
Is that
None
correct?
of the boys did that.
Your Honor, she had the condition.
That is not.
That's why she ran on that second week. She was behind the other players that had started a week ahead of her.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Well, that's what Sherry said. Sherry said that before you get into the pads and everything
Right.
else, you have to do certain things, which she missed during the first week. Right?
Right.
What you want is special treatment for your daughter. Can't get that.
No.
They had every right in the world if she didn't show up according, I
Doesn't
assume
say
to
that.
I'm speaking. They had every right in the world to say you don't show up for Hell Week, you're not going to be even considered for the team.
There is no place in their rules that it says that. And it even
You knew
says,
about Hell Week, correct? Are you meant
Yes,
to
of
tell me
course.
that the other 40 people who showed up did not just showed up because they wanted to? Well, maybe
There
they
were a lot
had
of
more of
people
a
that didn't
desire.
show up.
Just a second. Maybe they had more of a desire to play. Your daughter had a desire to spend time in New York with her grandmother. Stop making a baby out of your daughter. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
It was wrong. What they did was wrong. And you know what? Discrimination is against the law. They broke the law, and she was the victim.
I feel that Sherry was a good athlete. I feel like if she would have came out that first week, I mean, I talked to the other coaches, she would have made the team.
Well, at least we were able to speak our case, and
Sort
that
of.
everybody heard what I
offered. I didn't ask them to get it for me, so that's their loss.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gladue versus Culpepper Sedgwick. Step forward, please.
Administrative Assistant Heidi Gladue is suing her former friends, 23-year-old customer service rep Michelle Culpepper and 19-year-old customer service rep Wayne Sedgwick for trashing her belongings.
Miss Gladue, for some reason you were living with the defendants for a brief period of time with your daughter. This didn't work out. They asked you to leave. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you left, but when you left a lot of your property there. And it is your claim that at some point they took your property and threw it in the dumpster.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want them to pay you the value of the property that you claim they disposed of.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendants say they gave you plenty of opportunity to get your stuff out. They had no obligation to keep it. And finally, when you didn't come pick it up, they disposed of it. Correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, how did it come about that you and your daughter went to live with them?
I was going through some personal problems at the time, and Michelle and I had become really good friends, and I told her I had to move out of my apartment, and she said, well, you can come stay with me, your daughter, and you can come stay with us. You don't have to worry about anything, you know, just come and stay with us for a little while until you get up and off on your feet again.
That sounds like a very nice thing. She sounds like a lovely person.
Mm-hmm.
And so when did you move in with them?
It was the first weekend of July.
Okay. You moved with your daughter. Did you come with any furniture or just your personalty?
Everything that I owned that was in my two-bedroom apartment went with me. I had told Michelle beforehand.
You mean she had no furniture?
Well, she had furniture in her house too, but we had one of the rooms of the apartment that she was staying at, so most of my stuff went in there, and then in the kitchen where they did not have a table and stuff, that's where my couch went.
They're really nice people. Okay, what happened?
There was a misunderstanding one day where we were, according to Michelle, inconsiderate of her feelings.
Like?
Well, her mom was missing one morning, and nobody could find her. And Wayne, Lois, and I were sitting in the living room,
And
Who's
to kind of
Wayne?
lighten the mood.
Who's Wayne?
Wayne is the other defendant. To lighten the mood, Wayne and I decided to tell Lois about this incident the night before that Michelle had bent over to pick up something and kind of fell, and we were kind of laughing about it. And she felt that we were being insensitive to the fact that her mother was missing.
So?
She asked us to leave, that we could stay the weekend if we needed to, and that she wanted us out.
Go ahead.
I told her that I was currently on unemployment at the time, so I was waiting for my unemployment check to come to me. I told her I needed some time, and she said that was no problem.
Okay.
On the 16th, I received my unemployment check in the mail. I went and I got a U-Haul truck and I got my storage area, which I have all receipts for. I told her that I would be there the following morning at 11:30, that if anything should change by that, I would give her a call. Unfortunately, that morning, my mother was admitted for pneumonia in the hospital, which I have documentation of, and I did not get out of that out of the hospital until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I called her at work at about 3:30 and told her what was going on and that I would be there tomorrow at 11:30, and she said fine. About an hour later, she called me back and said that her and Wayne had something to do and that they wouldn't be back at the apartment until around 1:30. So I told her, fine, I'll be there between 1 and 1:30. So as far as I was concerned...
On the 18th?
On the 18th, that I would be there between 1 and 1:30. On the morning of the 18th at around 9:30, I received a voicemail message from the defendant, which I have a copy of on tape. So, and
which said?
Pretty much said that her mother had received 3 more threatening phone calls, her apartment manager received 4, and that I could get all my stuff out of the effing dumpster.
Okay. Now who's going to speak?
I will.
Good, thank you.
When everything happened where I asked them to leave, it was just like she said, the thing happened with my mother there in the living room joking around. And I let them know that they had 1 week, exactly 7 days, to get them and their property out of my house.
Okay.
They left that day and came back, I believe, 2 days later and grabbed some clothes and stuff. After the week was up was when I started calling Heidi. Because she had called, and it was like, one day she told me, oh, well, I'm waiting to get my check, and it didn't come, and da-da-da-da-da. And then I ended up I was at my mom's for something. I can't remember exactly why, but the phone rings, and I pick it up, and the lady on the phone asked if I was Michelle's mother. And I said yes, because I didn't know who it was, so I just kind of went, yeah, who is this? And she goes, well, I was just letting you know, B, if you call my woman again, I don't
understand.
If I was letting you know, if you call my woman again, I'm gonna F you up. And it was her girlfriend calling. I'd already had problems with it before, and I did know the voice when I heard it. And so I went home and I called Heidi and I asked her, what is this with calling my mother's house? She was on the one with my mother's number, because my number, I'd called her to her cell phone from my mom's house. So
was somebody that you had lived with?
Her girlfriend. Significant other, ex now.
Was that the person that you moved out of that home because you were having difficulty?
Yes.
I was trying to help her. I thought her and her daughter get away from me.
Okay, go ahead.
She claimed, oh, I haven't even talked to, and she said something about, you know what, I'm sick of even dealing with you guys. You can just throw the out because I don't want it. I don't want to deal with you. And she started ranting and raving, so I hung up the phone.
And when was this? Do you have any idea what date this was?
The 12th. It was the day she was supposed to have her stuff out.
Okay.
And
what happened next?
The next morning, she called saying that she still hadn't gotten her check and da-da-da-da. And I was like, okay, last night you were screaming you didn't even want the stuff, and then today you called me calm, telling me that as soon as you get your check, you'll be there and all this stuff. So I left it alone. I was like, fine, just come get it when you can. When she still didn't come get it, there was 2 other phone calls where she had ran it. I don't want it, and I don't want to deal with you, and you guys can this and that, and just yelling. And so I left it alone. I ended up where I came home on the 16th or the 17th, I can't remember, and Wayne told me to check the machine because there was someone on the machine and he wasn't sure if it was Heidi or her girlfriend. Well, on the machine, it was a message from her saying, you know what, F you guys, I don't want to deal with you, I don't want to see you throw this stuff out because I don't want it. And she repeated herself about 3 or 4 times. And
Do
I
you
know
have that message?
I erased it because I didn't think it was going to come to all this. Honestly, when I listened to the message, I wasn't going to throw it away. It was later on the 17th, I was at work and my mother called me. She said someone was calling her house threatening her. I asked her to look at her caller ID. She looked at it and she recited her cell phone number to me. So I called my play sister, a friend of mine, And I told her I'm leaving work early. You know what? I'm not going to have my mom being threatened. Let's just get her stuff out of my house. I've given her more than enough time. This was now the 17th of July. I told her on the 5th she had basically 5 days. So I didn't, it was like I felt I'd given her enough time. She had on 3 or 4 different occasions said she'd come get it, then she'd say she didn't want it. So I didn't want to play with her anymore. I didn't want my family threatened like that. So my friend came over, I left work early, we threw her stuff out.
You think she had all this aggravation before you and your daughter moved in?
I do. I think she had it planned personally.
Had what planned?
Had to plan to throw some of my stuff away because I had told her before I moved in that I would get a storage area for
No,
my
no, no,
belongings.
Miss Gladys, listen, that doesn't, just think it through. You think she invited you into her home for the purpose of throwing away your stuff?
I don't think for throwing away. I don't think she threw away. I had a $2,000 entertainment center. I had a 27 color inch TV. I don't know anybody that would leave that stuff at their place. I had a bed.
Just a
I
second.
had 2 beds there.
Just a second. Did you call Salvation Army?
I was going to until the threat to my mom was made.
Miss Gladys, bottom line, she has no responsibility to keep your stuff in the house.
Right, but we had a verbal agreement for me
I
to
did
pick it
not.
up. She
Not
told me
according
that
to
I
her.
could,
Sorry.
you know, she told me that I could keep my stuff there. I told her I was waiting for my check to come in the mail. Unfortunately, EDD took 10 days to get me my check.
She's not responsible for your bad fortune. My question to you is, do you think she had this grief in her life with threats to her mother?
I do think
threats
she
to the
had grief, but I was not responsible for those threats, ma'am.
You were...
I can't control somebody else who I'm not with. I
But
haven't
she was
been
riding
with
in
her.
a car with when she was supposedly broke up with her.
No, I was not.
I mean, if I was doing it, I had to get my mother's number from her.
She couldn't have because I don't keep phone numbers on my phone.
Whatever, she had problems. She was trying to do the right thing. Miss Gladys, she is under no obligation to keep your property. She's not your mother. She's
I never
not
said she was. She was supposed to be a friend, and
she
friends
was
don't do that.
She was a friend.
A friend throws your stuff away when you have a verbal agreement to be there at 11:30 in the morning.
I've said it, Miss Gladys. That's all. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's just sad. We lost everything. We don't have a thing left of our stuff.
She was trying to get money. Nothing in that place. If it would have been 5 of everything she had, she wouldn't have had $5,000 worth of stuff.
If I want to threaten somebody, I do it myself.
I tried to help somebody. I got screwed over. It's over with.
I just want to go with my baby. That's all I want to do, okay? Because we've lost a lot.
I ain't helping nobody. I don't care if they're on fire.
He was a habitual gambler, and this lady contributed to it.
Commercial pilot James Bracey is suing 20-year-old truck driver Michael Plumley and his girlfriend, 20-year-old Savannah Taylor, for the loss of value to his vehicle. James says when a drunken Michael ran a red light, he smashed into him.
It's case number 129, Your Honor, in the matter of Bracey versus Plumley Taylor. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. Bracey, you and Mr. Plumley were involved in an automobile accident.
That's correct.
When was that, sir?
December 14th, 2002.
From what I gather, ultimately, Mr. Plumley's insurance paid for the damage that was done to your car.
That's correct.
Miss Taylor was a passenger in Mr. Plumley's car. Mr. Plumley, on the evening of the accident, was arrested for driving while under the influence of alcohol. Is that right?
No, I was
or
actually...
were you ticketed?
Yeah, I was convicted
I
of...
didn't ask you what you were convicted of, Mr. Plumley. I asked you whether you were arrested or ticketed that night.
No, I went to the hospital.
Were you subsequently either arrested or ticketed?
Yes, I was.
For what?
For illegally consuming alcohol under the age of 21.
No. That is incorrect, Mr. Plumley. When I ask you a question, you have to give me the answer.
Okay.
You were given a ticket for what? I didn't ask you what you were ultimately convicted of, Mr.
Right.
Plumley. I asked you what you were given a ticket for.
DUI.
For DUI?
Yeah, but it's not actually a DUI. It was like...
No, what is it, an elephant?
No, it's under the age, drinking and driving, under the age of 21. It's under Statute 18 in the Virginia laws.
Mr. Plumley, you were drunk that night.
No, I had like 1-2 beers.
Are you telling him what to say?
No, why?
Good. Say nothing until I speak to you. In any event, you had been drinking.
Yes, ma'am.
So your insurance company assumed the responsibility of paying for Mr. Bracey's damages.
Yes, ma'am.
Fortunately, Mr. Bracey wasn't hurt. You were. How long were you hospitalized?
3 days.
What kind of injuries did you have?
Just internal bruising.
You were lucky. What about you, Miss Taylor?
I just had a little cut in my ear, that's it.
Mr. Bracey's claim is that despite the fact that your insurance paid for the damages to his car, which was relatively new, lost value as a result of this accident, and you should pay for that loss of value. And that you, Ms. Taylor, are also liable because you got into the car with someone who had been drinking. So that's why he's suing you.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of that part of his lawsuit very fast. Case against you is dismissed on my own motion. You can sit down.
Yeah, right.
You have no case against her. I don't know if you have a case against Mr. Plumlee, even though you're pretty aggravated and irritated with him. Let's see. Tell me about the accident itself, just to give me a frame of reference, Mr. Bracey.
On the morning of December 14th, my wife and I left our house and drove about 1.5 miles to the intersection where the accident occurred. I was driving less than the speed limit. I approached the intersection. I had the green light. Mr. Plumlee entered the intersection. He had a red light, and the collision occurred.
Your wife was in the car with you?
My wife was in the car.
Was she injured in any way?
No, she wasn't. We were both fortunate.
Very. What kind of car were you driving?
I had a Range Rover.
What year?
1999.
Okay. You have photographs of the car?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'd like to see them. What happened immediately after the accident, Mr. Bracey?
It was a pretty severe impact. Initially, I thought I'd killed the defendant.
I see his car. He's lucky he wasn't killed. Bird.
I checked my wife. We had 2 dogs in our car, and everybody seemed to be okay in my car. I went over to Mr. Plumlee's car, and I seriously thought that I had killed him at that moment or he would soon die. So I got a blanket and covered him up. From there, EMT arrived almost immediately and began taking care of them, and I went back and took care of my wife.
Who was probably pretty shaken up. What about Miss Taylor?
She didn't appear to be hurt. She was what appeared to be in shock, and she was to some degree tending to the defendant. My wife went over and told her not to move him, and then she went back to our truck and stayed in the truck for the rest of the...
Now, what time was this?
This was at 8:30 in the morning.
And you were on your way to work?
No, we were out on a family outing. This was a Saturday morning.
Where were you going, Mr. Plumlee?
I was on my way home.
From where?
From a buddy's house. I'd been playing darts all night long.
And what about Miss Taylor?
She was with me.
Was she your girlfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So now I know what happened. He's playing darts and having 1 beer all night. He almost gets himself killed. You got a good smash on the front end of your Range Rover that looks like a pretty decent car, because despite the fact that you caused the kind of damage you caused to his car when you hit it, your car was relatively unscathed. You're pretty lucky. Now, my question to you, Mr. Bracey, is when you accepted the money from Mr. Plumlee's insurance, did they or did they not have you sign a general release?
No, ma'am, they did not. I didn't get any money from his insurance company. They paid the repair shop directly.
So you signed nothing?
I signed nothing.
How do you value loss of value on a 1999 Range Rover, which has been repaired to your satisfaction, because it had to be to your satisfaction? How do you value loss?
I talked to the defendant's insurance company. They gave me a set of criteria that I would have to meet. One of those was to get an independent appraiser to appraise my car both before and after the accident. And I did that.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am. And that appraisal is what I base my claim on.
What happened when you gave this to the defendant's insurance company?
They looked at it and basically disregarded it and offered me a $1,000 settlement. They had another appraisal done that came up with an appraisal of $981.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so your appraisal says that the car has a diminished value of $4,400, and the insurance company says that it's about $1,000. What do you say, sir?
I have no idea how much his car lost value, if it lost value. I'm assuming it did lose value. I wish it wouldn't have happened, but I mean, I know I was wrong in this situation. But, I mean, from my understanding, my insurance company did take care of his vehicle. On top of that, offered him $1,000. And I feel that, you know, it's been amended, and it's basically how I feel.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What kind of work do you do?
Wash trucks.
How much did you pay for this car, Mr. Bracey?
$58,000.
How long do you think you have to work to make $58,000?
It'd be an awful long time.
And later today.
So you think that somebody who stole your camera called you. Now, what makes you think it was Mr. Silva?
The person who left the message conveniently left his cell phone number on my caller ID.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Bracey says 20-year-old Michael Plumlee owes for the loss of value to his vehicle due to a drunk driving accident.
How much did you pay for this car, Mr. Bracey?
$58,000.
What did you go like this for? What does that mean? Somebody give it to you as a gift?
No, ma'am. I bought it.
You
I
bought
worked
it?
hard. I bought it.
And you paid $58,000 for it?
Yes, ma'am. It had a sticker price of $62,000.
You drove a hard bargain.
Not
Mr.
hard
Plumlee, how old are you, sir?
20.
You work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
Wash trucks, tractor and trailers.
You wash them?
Yes.
How long do you think you have to work to make $58,000?
It'd be an awful long time.
Long time. What kind of work do you do, Mr. Bracey?
I'm a commercial pilot.
So he works hard for his money, right? And because of your actions that day, his car does have diminished value because there was certain structural damage to the car as indicated by both his appraisal and your insurance company. And why should he have to suffer that loss? Fortunately, he wasn't hurt. That's the most important thing. But I understand why you're angry, because this young man was up all night doing the wrong thing, and you and your wife suffered a loss. You want to be fully compensated. I don't blame you. I think somewhere in between the $4,400, sir, and the $900, there is a reasoned amount. Do you agree with that?
Your Honor, I agree with what you're saying. However, I did see other appraisals of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
So there weren't just two different opinions.
You have other appraisals?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll take a look at them.
Okay. As I said, I base my claim on that appraisal.
I know you do, sir, but that doesn't mean that I have to base my response on that appraisal. Sir, let me explain something to you. The general manager of Land Rover is not an expert witness. I accepted your appraiser because your appraiser has indicated that he has been certified as an expert witness in some 25 trials. I believe that you are giving me evidence that is credible. This is not credible evidence.
Your Honor, on the letter that their appraiser sent, it states that he did not see my car. He did not have the opportunity to see my car. He is basing this on never having seen it. He does have the accessories on my car incorrect. He does have the value incorrect of my car because he did not correctly assess the accessories.
Sir, without an expert witness who's able to see this so that I can ask him questions, I have to rely on these two appraisals. The appraisal from the insurance company gave what you paid for the car, which was $58,000. They gave the retail value at the time, what they perceived as their Blue Book value. They came up with a formula. That's not this. Somewhere in between these two amounts is what I call aggravation money. You got your car fixed. In all probability, it's fixed to your satisfaction. You're still driving it. I assume you're still driving it, are you not?
I'm still driving it, but it's had to go back into the shop 3 times because of the frame damage.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. You have those bills?
No, ma'am, I do not.
I mean, that's continuous and ongoing. Instead of bringing me this, why don't you bring me that? $2,695.85 is right smack dab in the middle between what the insurance company says your loss was and what your appraisers say your loss of value is. That's right in the middle, and that's, Mr. Bracey, what I believe you're entitled to. You should, again, thank your lucky stars that neither you nor your wife were hurt and that Mr. Plumlee was not killed, because despite the fact that it was his fault, you probably would have felt very, very badly. You have any other DUIs on your record?
No, ma'am.
You ever going to have one again?
No, I don't plan.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,695.85. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was compensated for what his vehicle was, you know, repaired, and basically he got a plus by catching a little bit of extra money, you know.
When I go to sell it, I will lose in the neighborhood of $4,400.
It is running, and it is still in the same form that it was in before, you know, you even got in an accident.
I think the lesson for the defendant is don't drive drunk.
Yeah, I don't plan on having any more.
Manager Donald Baker is suing his neighbors, Mark and Deborah Taggart, for damage to his home caused by fireworks.
Order. All rise.
Now this is case number 479 on the calendar in the matter of Baker versus Taggart. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Baker, you and the defendants are neighbors,
Yes, we are.
and I assume that your backyards abut each other's,
Yes, they do.
and these are two private homes.
2 private homes, 2 separate communities within a master development.
According to your complaint, the Taggarts like fireworks, and they use them to celebrate a variety of events. And they have both damaged your property, according to your complaint, and in addition, according to you, have caused your wife a certain amount of trauma. I see your wife is not present.
Yes.
All right, so let's start with the first incident that you talk about, which took place in 1999.
Your Honor, may I provide you with a photo to follow the story?
Yes, that's always helpful. Go ahead, sir.
On January 23rd, which was a Saturday, late in the evening, I happened to be in one part of the home and my wife was at the dinette area when all of a sudden there were large or very loud explosions. She proceeded to go out to the patio where that pool rail is. When she reached the rail, this particular rocket came down through the screen and exploded within 2 to 3 feet from her where she was standing. She proceeded to protect her eyes.
You're talking about through one of these screens?
Through the ceiling above her.
The ceiling
Yes.
of the over the pool.
Yes, Your Honor, and I have a picture of that. There's the picture of the hole, and here's the picture of the rocket in the pool that was taken the following morning.
So what did you do, sir?
Well, by the time I got to the door going out to the patio, needless to say, seeing her basically just covered with sparks, she panicked in sheer terror, proceeded to run out to the wall, and began to yell over the wall, probably screaming to the Taggarts to please, you know, you're damaging my property and things of that nature. About that time, a barrage went off, additional rockets, and she hid or took shelter underneath that decorative tree. I proceeded to go out and shield her and bring her back into the house. We then called the sheriff's department.
What happened when the sheriff's department arrived?
The sheriff came out, observed the fireworks, the damage. He was able to observe the party taking place.
The party was still ongoing.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
He left my home. I had to escort him over to Mr. Taggart's home to show him where the party was taking place at.
Mr. Taggart, do you remember a police officer arriving in your home on the 23rd of January?
I wasn't present at that time. My wife was.
What kind of a party were you having?
It was my husband's 35th birthday party.
So where was he?
He had gone across the street to get some additional food and things for the party.
Okay, so he just wasn't there at that moment.
At that moment, yes, correct.
And you had a discussion with the sheriff?
Yes, I did.
And he told you that there had been a complaint?
Correct.
So what did you do?
Well, the sheriff had come to the door and said that the fireworks had been letting off sparks and that the sparks had done some damage to the pool area and had frightened the wife and asked us to stop the fireworks, at which we did at that time. He also asked us to contact Mr. Baker to make arrangements and to discuss the incident that had happened.
So did you do that?
When my husband returned, I told him the time I was tending to the party, so I was not back where the fireworks.
So did you do that, Mr. Taggart? Did you call
Yes,
the
I
Bakers?
did. I called Mr. Baker and discussed it with him, and at that time he had told me that his wife was cowered on the ground getting showered with sparks. I felt that was heavily exaggerated. The fireworks that I have, Your Honor, they're not bottle rockets. They're big. It's hard to explain. I wish I'd have brought one, but they shoot 200-300 feet up in the air. They're cakes, is what they're called, 25 shot. And the
Did he tell you that damage had been caused as a result of one of these things?
He said that there was damage to his screen. He didn't.
Did you make
indicate
arrangements
exactly.
to go over and look at it?
Not at that time. After I'd spoke to him, he seemed to have been rallying his neighbors. He said his neighbors have some complaints as well, and their screens got damaged. And another time, he came to my house, another 4th of July. The only other time...
All right, let's go to the next instance because we haven't gotten there yet. So the answer is there was never any payment made for the initial damage in 1999. Is that correct, Mr. Baker?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
All right, let's move to the next instance.
In the following January, New Year's 2000, there was a gala fireworks display. That evening, the winds were fairly calm, and whatever debris that was being shot off was going somewhere else within our community or his community. There was no damage to my property as a result of his fireworks display.
But he did, in fact, have a fireworks display.
Absolutely.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
On July 14th, I happened to be in my home, and again, Mr. Taggart is setting off fireworks. In this case, they were the rockets of this type, and they were going over my yard, and I personally, just from pure anger and frustration, drove over and confronted him at his front door with some of his friends from his party, asking him to please either shut it down or move his fireworks to the front of his property, shoot over his neighbors and not over my property. I turned around and rather than having any more of a confrontation, I proceeded to leave, got back to my home. There was a series of other rockets go off shortly after. My wife says, obviously, he's not listening to you. And he did subsequently move the fireworks to the front of his home. The next incident, Your Honor.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
When he did come over to my house, he was upset, and he did threaten me to some extent that he was going to get me and I was going to pay for this in some manner. I respected his wishes, however, I did move the fireworks to the front. However, all the neighbors in my neighborhood, they don't have a problem. There's 8 feet between each house from my house to the neighbors on either side.
He has a problem.
I realize that. But I
He
feel
has a
that I was singled out in this instance because the fireworks that I have aren't bottle rockets and things of that nature. They're
Somebody was shooting those off from your yard, sir. Maybe some of you guessed because they know that you have fireworks and maybe they brought some of their own. That's a possibility, isn't it, Mr. Taggart?
I guess.
Yeah, you guess.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donald Baker is accusing his neighbors, Mark and Deborah Taggart, of ignoring his request to stop their use of fireworks. Donald says the Taggarts have caused damage to his property and undue stress to his wife.
Go ahead. When was the next instance, sir?
New Year's this year. When I got up in the morning on Monday, I initiated a sheriff's report. I took photographs of the residue from his fireworks. And, Your Honor, he mentions something other than bottle rockets. My understanding is in the industry they called mortars. They are very large balls filled with black powder that you need a tube or a cannon or a pipe to shoot them out of. And this is the debris that came off of my roof and also my patio.
Did you have a party New Year's Eve?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did have some fireworks?
Yes. Now, the fireworks, that debris is eventually going to come down. However, it's not lit when it comes down. I mean, these shoot 300 feet in the air. Well before they hit any houses or the ground, they're out.
Was that the last instance, Mr. Baker?
That is the last incident, and that is what drove me to take this to a court. I have attempted, I've exhausted every means available to me to settle this in a neighborly fashion.
Okay. Mr. Taggart, every judge brings to the bench with them a certain amount of life experience. You and your wife look like nice people. I don't think that you're bad people. I think, however, that you are not a considerate neighbor. Even though your neighbors may not have a problem with your fireworks, clearly one of your neighbors does. I'll tell you that when I was pregnant with my first child, I was living in a row house development, and one of the neighbors on the 4th of July decided to have some fireworks. Excuse me. It was my second child because it was Adam. Because he was born in August, and I was very pregnant. And fireworks went off and came sailing over into our little backyard. And I remember hitting the ground over a little stool that was there out of fear, because you have a certain amount of fear. If you're not in charge of those fireworks, Mr. Taggart, if you don't have control over them, there's a fear that you have. You hear something whizzing in the air. You hear something exploding. There is a certain amount of debris. You say it's not lit by the time it hits something, but when you see it coming down at you, you don't have a little voice inside saying to you, that's not going to be lit by the time it hits my hair. And I recall so vividly being concerned for the remainder of my pregnancy that I had caused some kind of damage to this baby when I hit the ground hard because of somebody else's idea of a good time. And I will tell you that my husband at that time, if he could have, if I would have let his collar go, would have gone over to that neighbor's house and ripped out his heart through his nostrils. And I would have been there cheering because this guy just did not care. He said, you know, nobody was hurt. I mean, the fact that she overreacted by hitting the ground, that's not my fault, which was basically his response. She overreacted, which is really what you're saying to me. So if she's cowering over in the corner and being frightened, that's not your fault. It's because there's something wrong with her. The debris would not have caused their house to go on fire because by the time it gets down, it's not lit anymore. You can celebrate the 4th of July without fireworks in your backyard. So if you have a neighbor that's had a problem, and if you've been advised 2 years ago that there was damage done to property, and that he was in fear, and he's not a nut. He's not a nut. He says, I want to be able to enjoy my 4th of July too. Maybe I want to go in the backyard and have a barbecue. I don't have to have my friends and relatives walking around with hats and umbrellas because you want to shoot off fireworks. He's not wrong. Do I look like I need help from you?
No, Your Honor.
So, if your neighbor has complained for 2 years that it's stressful to have you firing off this stuff, then you take your party elsewhere. Or you have your party without it. Now, can I see a bill, sir, for the damage to your property? You think there's anything wrong with Adam as a result of my falling to the ground?
No, Adam is okay.
Bird knows Adam from the time he was, what, 6 or 7. He is okay.
He's perfect.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
He's a cute
I was trying to help out.
All right, the total damage from both incidents is $940. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
You're too old for fireworks anyway, Mr. Tanner. You understand? It's a kid thing to do. In the state where I live, they're illegal. You can't sell them, you can't buy them, and there's a reason for that. The reason for that is fireworks are dangerous. You never know what's going to happen. So I'm entering a judgment in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of $940, and I strongly urge you, you're nice people, find another way to play. That's all.
Okay. Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'd like to think that I can look forward to a very peaceful New Year's and 4th of July hereafter.
Oh, guess fireworks are going to be tuned down a bit.
The vehicle if this is going to be a problem.
Hopefully in the future we'll do a better job.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Boncheva versus Lowhorn. Step forward, please.
17-year-old Petya Boncheva is suing 23-year-old welder Larry Lowhorn for keying Petya's car. Larry is denying the charge.
All right, this is not going to take long, Bird. Don't get too comfortable. According to your complaint, you knew the defendant. Whether you liked him or he liked you, I quite frankly don't care whether you were friends or not, but according to your complaint, you were at somebody else's house, you walked into the house, he's sitting there with his shoes off, and you commented that he had dirty socks, which irritated him. The next thing you knew, you went outside, so you saw that somebody had keyed your car, and you say it was the defendant. He says, you did comment about his dirty socks, but he didn't key your car. Correct. Is that right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
I probably think you keyed her car. Just watching you, watching your body language. I'm really smart when it comes to that. I think you did do that, but it, see what I mean?
Yes.
But it's up to her to prove it to me. And you have no witnesses, is that right?
No.
Nobody saw him do it?
No.
He didn't admit that he did it?
No.
So what do you want me to do?
Well, he actually did say that he was going to do something to my car, and the night that...
Your Honor?
Don't speak until I speak to you.
Yes.
The night that he keyed my car, we were over at my friend Keith's house.
Don't give me the whole story. I want to know. He said he was going to key your car. When did he say he was going to do something
After I made a comment about his socks, telling him that his socks were dirty, he looked at me and he said, well, you really shouldn't make comments to people that know what kind of car you drive.
So I said, you don't even know what kind of car I drive, and he reminded me how we met and the night he'd seen my car, so I was like, okay, he knows my car. Then right after he made a comment, he said, well, you better watch out now, watch what happens to you now.
So you have pretty good reason to think that it was him, right?
Yeah.
But you understand that in court you have to have proof.
Yeah, well, actually, I did call the Clinton Township Police Department. We did make a report about it. I was in there for not more than a half an hour, and after he made a comment, he went outside for 5 minutes, and he came back. He just looked at me and smiled. So my friend Keith said, well, let's go look at your car. Maybe he did do something to it. So me and him walked outside and seen my car was keyed. Right after he was out there for 5 minutes, came back, and we went outside. So
what did the police tell you when you reported it?
They told me to make a report about it, take him to court, because
they couldn't do anything about it because you had no witnesses. They couldn't arrest him.
No.
Now you want to say something?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. What she is failing to mention at first is that she was kind of upset with me in the beginning, before all this even started, because when we initially met.
I don't care.
Okay.
Get to her car.
Okay, when I got to the apartment and she started saying this stuff to me.
About your dirty socks.
Yes.
And about your hygiene.
Yes, I kind of got aggravated, so I kind of went outside. My witness, Sam, and another girl were outside. They were talking. I went out there to use the phone because we had gotten the argument. I called my girlfriend to come pick me up because I didn't want to sit here and argue with a 16-year-old about something as petty as dirty socks. So I called him. We came up Sam came up first, and I came up later with Laura.
Sir,
actually,
Mr. Lawhorn,
shh,
I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear you.
Okay.
Unless you're going to tell me, Judge, I'm going to fess up. Either I keyed her car, or my friend keyed her car, or I saw somebody key her car. I don't want to hear all your other nonsense. Do you understand?
Yes.
Did you key her car?
No, Your Honor.
Do you know who did?
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
No.
Right. You have no proof that he keyed your car. You have no witnesses. He didn't make a confession. Do you understand? I can't find that he keyed your car. He might have, or he might have, or somebody else that was outside might have. He may have given them the key to key your car. You have no proof.
But he said he was going to do something to my car. So, and I was in there for not more than a half an hour, and we walked outside as soon as he came in, and my car was keyed. No, Sam was not outside with him when he went outside. Neither was Laura. They were all in the apartment with us.
Well, they weren't.
They were all in there. So he went outside alone.
You have no proof that he keyed your car. Not sufficient in court, anyway. Not sufficient for the police to arrest him for vandalism, and not sufficient for me to be able to charge him for fixing your car. He might have done it. Probably did, based upon his body English, but I can't make a judgment based upon that. So unfortunately, I have to dismiss your case. That's all.
Why is that excuse? You may step out.
He did say he was going to do something to my car 5 minutes before I walked outside and it was keyed.
It's a bad area, so, anyone could have done it.
Right here, it's all keyed up, both sides, the car.
There was no evidence. She didn't see me do it, so I think she made a good judgment.
70-year-old home health care provider Robert Schroeder is suing his daughter, insurance agent Julie Weeks, for defamation of character and for the return of wedding rings and a gold watch. Julie says it was her late mother's wish that she gets the jewelry.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom.
Your Honor, this is case number 22 on the calendar in the matter of Schroeder versus Weeks. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mr. Schroeder, the defendant is your daughter. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm having a little bit trouble hearing you.
Okay, I will speak louder. Your wife passed away recently,
yes.
And it is your claim that your daughter took certain jewelry of your wife's that you would like back.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what this claim is about.
Yes, ma'am.
Your daughter says that it was your wife's wish that she have this jewelry.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Weeks, was this the only property that your mother left?
She left some other family heirlooms and personal property, but nothing of significant value.
I assume that that's a box. Is that a box?
This is the watch that he claims, and the ring was my mother's.
I'd like to see both, please. Were your parents, Miss Weeks, estranged at the time of her death?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Well, in September of 1999, my mother was placed in an adult family home.
What was her illness?
Her diagnosis was multiple sclerosis at that time, and she was falling a lot. She was being left alone a lot, and Adult Protective Services were involved because of the fire department having to, she had one of those life call buttons, and the fire department was called to the house quite frequently to pick her up, and they felt that she was in a neglectful situation because she was not being properly cared for. And so Adult Protective Services started searching for alternative living arrangements for her.
And according to the complaint that I've read and your answer, there came a time around 1999 where you were given by your mother power of attorney.
That is correct.
Subsequently, in 2000, you were appointed her guardian.
That is correct.
Was her diagnosis ever modified from multiple sclerosis to something else?
Not officially, no.
All right. Now, what I found interesting about your answer was that in 2000 you were in fact appointed her guardian.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the court found that she was unable to take care of herself and make decisions for herself.
That is correct.
When was it that your mother told you that she wanted you to have this jewelry?
October, November of 99.
Did you take the jewelry at that time?
I did. And later, early part of 2000, she asked for me to give her back her ring because she wanted to wear it.
And she wore it until she died?
Yes, ma'am.
I do not want to get involved in, because I don't think it's necessary to estrange the two of you any further. Do you have siblings?
Yes.
How many?
I have 3 brothers and a sister.
Are you in touch with your other children, sir? Do you have any contact with your other children?
Pardon me?
Do you have any contact with your other
No,
children?
I don't.
So you have no contact with any of your children?
I have, even my youngest boy got up and left at the funeral when my wife, her services were. And my daughter, to my immediate left, didn't even take the time to go to her mother's funeral.
Ms. Weeks, very briefly, can you tell me why all of the children, from your perspective, don't have contact with their father? Your parents were married for, according to this, 47 years.
Yes. My father, from the time we were small children, was very abusive towards the 5 of us children, as well as my mother. And I have the guardian ad litem report that has statements to that effect, if you would like to see that. And he was never supportive of any of our decisions or anything that we felt we wanted to do, and was very mean, has said very mean and hateful things towards my middle brother, to the point where
so it's a whole history.
Yeah, it's a very, very long and sordid history.
But Ms. Weeks, doesn't it strike you that in early 2000, your mother wanted her wedding rings back? Why do you think she wanted her wedding rings back?
She'd been married and wearing them for 40 years, and she missed wearing them. And
that's usually a symbolic thing.
It was a symbolic thing, yes.
She missed wearing them.
Yes.
I understand that you had gotten a protective order so that he didn't go to the nursing home after a certain point. At what point did he stop going to the nursing home?
In February of 2000 is when the order of protection was put into place due to his behavior when he did visit her and phone calls that he made when he called her there.
I am going to try to resolve this issue, as I think, as wisely as I can. Your mother gave you this watch in 1999.
No, the watch, Bob gave her that watch late last year. If he wants that watch back, he can have that watch back. That watch has no significant sentimental value to me whatsoever. What has value to me are my mother's things. He abandoned their home, and if I hadn't retrieved the few family heirlooms that I had retrieved from the home, they would have been in the city dump.
I'm talking about these two things, Mrs. Weeks.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
I can understand probably each of the children wanting to have a memento, something
Yes, ma'am.
to look at and to touch of their mothers. I can also understand from your father's perspective. Are you living alone now, sir?
I'm living, I have my own room. I'm taking care of a 90 lady that will soon be 91 years old.
But this is somebody that you care for. This is a job.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why you want these wedding rings back, Mr. Schroeder.
I bought those rings for my wife 47 years ago. I gave my wife the first ring at her home at East Indiana when I was invited to supper by her mother, who has passed away. I feel I'm entitled to these rings. I paid for them since my daughter has made such terrible accusations about me, which are all unprovable. And I feel that I should have the rings and the watch back, plus other things that she took out of the home.
We're not talking about other things,
All right.
Mr. Schroeder. We're talking about the
ring
watch
and the watch. Yes, ma'am.
and the rings. Now, let me ask you this question, Mr. Schroeder.
Yes, ma'am.
If you had to make a choice between the watch and the rings as a memento, which would you want?
I want them both, Your Honor. I paid for them.
That's not the answer, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your children don't talk to you, Mr. Schroeder. There has to be a reason. And unless you want to live the rest of your life by yourself, I would suggest you do a little soul searching and figure out what that was.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Schroeder says his daughter, Julie Weeks, won't return his late wife's possessions. Julie says it was her mother's wish that she have the items.
Are they of equal importance to you?
Yes, ma'am.
You feel the same way. One was a gift to your wife.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you telling me, Mr. Schroeder, that each of these items are as important to you as the other?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to ask you the same question, Miss Weeks. If I were to ask you which of these items, memento from your mother, is more important to you, which would it be?
It would be her ring. I wear it every day.
Give her, Miss Weeks, the ring. Give Mr. Schroeder the watch. Mr. Schroeder, that was the wrong answer, sir. The fact that you paid for them and they were yours is not the answer.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to tell you why, Mr. Schroeder. Children don't replace emotionally the loss of a parent, in this case, their mother. Sometimes mates replace emotionally their mate. They may never forget, but they replace emotionally. If you said to me, I want the rings back because we were married with those rings, she wore those rings for 47 years, they're part of our history, I want them, I would have given you the rings. And you have to understand that, Miss Weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
But to you, it didn't make any difference. You said to me, I paid for both. They're equally as important to me, so I want them both. Well, I knew that they weren't equally as important to your daughter, right?
That's right.
You have the watch, you have the rings, you probably never make up, I assume. Is that right?
That is correct, ma'am.
I assume so. That's very sad, but
it is sad.
You're a grown-up adult, and he probably is a lonely old man who doesn't have at this point in his life the support of his children or his grandchildren. I assume you don't see your grandchildren either.
No, I have a call regularly from Marianne in Florida.
Well, Mr. Schroeder, you should do a little
Marianne
bit.
is Julie's oldest daughter.
How old are you, sir? How old are you?
70 years old.
Well, that's not so old, Mr. Schroeder. There's still time for you to try to do something to get back into the good graces of your family. But you also have to look at yourself and say, what is it that I did over the last 45 years to my family that makes them all cut me off? Your children don't talk to you, Mr. Schroeder. There has to be a reason. And unless you want to live the rest of your life by yourself, I would suggest you do a little soul searching and figure out what that was. Thank you very much. This case is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I've tried to be kind to Bob. I've tried to show him care, and every time I open up and try to be kind to the man, he is hateful towards me.
I hope that someday that I can get to a point where I can see my grandchildren.
He has made the decision about his family.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lovell versus Carson. Step forward, please.
Attorney Warner Lovell is suing his former client, 27-year-old ticketing agent Diane Michelle Carson, for failure to pay for services in a custody battle. Michelle says she never hired him.
Mr. Lovell, you are an attorney.
That is correct.
And it is your claim that the defendant retained you in a custody proceeding to represent her and that she has an outstanding bill that you wanted to pay.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Ms. Carson says that she never retained you. Her mother, if anyone, retained you in this custody proceeding. And aside from that, you failed to show up in court on the day of the hearing. Is that your defense?
Yes.
I gather, Ms. Carson, that this whole case started with a custody proceeding involving your former husband some 6 or 7 years ago.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you have 2 small children.
Yes.
According to what I read in your answer, you lost custody to your husband.
Yes.
And your husband remarried. And recently he was dispatched to go into active duty, leaving the 2 children with their stepmother. And it was your desire to regain custody of the children, even temporarily, while their father was in the active military, rather than leaving them with their stepmother. That's what the lawsuit was about.
Yes.
And now, Mr. Lovell, I would like you to tell me when Miss Carson came to see you, how she was referred to you. I'd like to see the retainer agreement that she signed.
Your Honor, she came to me on or about June 18, 2002, the same date that she signed this agreement. Actually, she didn't come into my office. I gave the agreement to my secretary, one of my witnesses here, Diane Galloway, who is the mother of the defendant.
Okay, hold on a second. You took this retainer agreement, which I want to read for a second, and you gave it to your witness, who happens to be the defendant's mother.
Right, but Your Honor...
When it was returned to you, was it returned signed?
Yes.
So your conversations were primarily with her mother, who was your secretary?
That's correct.
Did you sign a retainer agreement with the plaintiff in June?
No, I did not.
Step up, please. Ms. Galloway, you worked for the plaintiff?
Yes.
For how long?
5 years.
Prior to the 18th of June, 2002, did you discuss with the plaintiff your daughter's predicament with regard to her 2 children?
Yes.
When had your daughter first contacted you and told you that the children were going to be with their stepmother?
She didn't contact me. I just knew.
How did you know?
Because I correspond with their father and the stepmother.
When you found out about it, what did you do?
I encouraged her to try to get temporary custody of them.
When did you speak to him?
June the 18th.
Are you telling me that prior to June the 18th you never spoke to him about the situation?
Not as far as in a professional manner, just as far as in corresponding, I would come in kind of depressed or upset or something and, share with him the situation.
Now, in June is when you had the first formal conversation with him, is that right?
That's correct.
And was it at that time that he gave you this retainer agreement?
Yes.
And what did you do with the retainer agreement?
I signed it, and then Michelle signed it.
Where was she when she signed it?
In my kitchen, in my house.
On what date?
September, I'm going to say probably around 21st, 22nd.
Your Honor, Shut. I don't want you to speak.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The conference with client that you are referring to in your billing statement has to be Miss Galloway. Is that correct?
Yes, but may I explain?
No.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Attorney Warner Lovell says former client Michelle Carson owes for his services involving custody. Michelle says Mr. Lovell was hired by her mother, so she should pay.
Why is it that your daughter didn't sign the retainer agreement until September?
Because the proceedings, the way they were going, we thought we were going to have to, get attorney fees from the defendant. And I couldn't do that because I was not a party to the litigation. So I told her in order to get attorney fees, you're the party, I'm not, you need to sign this.
Now, when was the hearing in this case?
First one I was involved in was scheduled for June 28, 2002, but we went in a day early, the 27th, at mutual agreement.
Mr. Lovell, between June 18th and September, how many court appearances did you make?
I made that one.
And then?
There was another lawyer involved for the defendant here, and the defendant and her mother wanted someone with more experience. I have 32 years experience.
Shh, Mr. Lovell, who told you that?
Diane Galloway, my witness, told me they wanted someone more experienced. I then communicated with the defendant about this, and I sent her letters. She never responded to one of the letters and indicated
what were the date of the letter, sir?
It was September 23rd. Was to her lawyer, my co-counsel, pointing out.
No, Mr. Lovell. Mr. Lovell, sir. Let me explain to you where I'm going, and you know exactly. You know exactly where I'm going, Mr. Lovell.
Right.
Between June 18th and some date in September that your witness is not sure of, the defendant did not retain you. She retained you.
I disagree with that assessment.
Well, I'm telling you, you may disagree with it, but since I am the final arbiter of what's going on here, you have to accept that, sir. Now, you are suing for work that was done between June and September. I think that your secretary wanted some help with a custody case that she thought was a good idea initially in April. She told her daughter that she thought her daughter should pursue this custody case as opposed to the stepmother. Her daughter retained her own attorney. She signed a retainer agreement with you in June. She did not sign it until September. And all I'm asking you now, sir, is to fill in the blanks for me when you had correspondence with the defendant. Show me.
The first letter I had with her was the 23rd of September. Here's a copy of the letter. I had another one on October 8th. But prior to these letters, I had telephone communications with her, Judge, Your Honor, and she recognized me as her counsel.
Don't tell me she recognized you as her counsel, sir. I don't see that she recognized you as her counsel. You don't have a retainer agreement signed by her until September. And in September, you started sending her letters that you wanted your money. She says, you're not my lawyer. I mean, I'm not asking you any questions. I'm just looking at your paperwork, sir, and listening to your witness.
From August 6th to October 7th, Diane Galloway was out of my office with a wrist injury and surgery. So I was having to communicate some with the defendant directly. She recognized me as her lawyer. And
did you recognize him as your lawyer?
I never spoke with him. It was always through my mom. My mom would tell me something. I never spoke with this gentleman on the telephone except for one time, and it was a no charge on the billing statement. All of this other billing is conversation with Diane Galloway, conversation with Diane Galloway.
See it, please?
All of the bills.
Can I see it, please? How much did you pay your attorney?
My attorney? $2,000.
What happened with the case?
I lost.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Who paid you your retainer on June 18th?
Diane Galloway paid a $500 retainer on that time. I have a copy of the check she's given.
I believe you.
Okay.
Am I correct that in your statement to this defendant, dated 7/1/02 for the month of June, that when you refer to conference with client, you are referring to Miss Galloway?
Some of those were with Miss Galloway. I had a conversation or two with each one.
Listen to me, sir. You don't say clients. You say client. Did you have a conference with Miss Carson on 6/18? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
So if you did not have a conference, Mr. Lovell, with Miss Carson on June 18th, the conference with client that you are referring to in your billing statement has to be Miss Galloway. Is that correct?
Yes, but may I explain?
No. On June 19th, did you have a conference with Miss Carson?
Not in person.
Are you telling me, sir, that you had a conference on the telephone with Miss Carson and you had a conference with Miss Galloway as well?
No. The defendant worked for American Airlines and I couldn't reach her by phone during the day. When I would call, I usually would not get a response. If she had to come into my office, she would lose pay. Therefore, I would communicate to her through Diane Galloway.
Mr. Lovell, I'm not going to prolong this torture anymore, sir. You do not have a case against Miss Carson and you know it. Case dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Came as a complete surprise to me today that she's saying I'm not her lawyer.
The agreement was that my mother hired him. He was a co-counsel. She was paying the bill, and I was paying my own lawyer bill.
What I heard my daughter say is that I pushed her into getting temporary custody of her children versus her stepmom. And telling me that she don't want them.
And I've gone through 3 lawyers paying to get my children. So it's not that I don't want my children.
She's got nude pictures of herself laying all over Houston. If he wouldn't have come in here and tried to lie, I'm sure things could have been worked out.
She's trying to act like a good girl. We got pictures right here showing she was a bad girl, butt naked and stuff.
Upset, I would have left.
But watch for your date.
23-year-old information operator Aisha Austin is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old public safety equipment installer Marcus Wynn, for vandalism and for stealing her property.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 413 on the calendar, the matter of Austin versus Wynn. Thank you. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Miss Austin, the defendant is your former boyfriend, according to the complaint that I've read, and you lived together for a period of time. Is that right?
That's correct.
According to you, you had an argument with him. During that argument, he assaulted you.
Yes, ma'am.
Later, he went out and vandalized your car, destroyed your property that was inside your house, then came back into your house at a later date, broke into your house, destroyed some more property. Mr. Wynn says that he never assaulted you. As a matter of fact, you assaulted him, that you destroyed your own property, vandalized your own car because you had a hissy fit, and he doesn't owe you a dime. Is that right, sir?
Just about right.
Didn't ask anything.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Miss Austin, how long did you live together?
We lived together for about 8 months.
Did he move into your house, or did you move into his, or did you take a place together?
Well, the lease was in my name, but he moved in with me at the same time as I moved in.
When did you have this argument?
The argument started November 26th on our way home from work.
Okay, well, what happened on the 26th of November?
We were on our way home from picking up the kids from school, and we were talking, and we...
Well, were you on the way home from work or school?
Well, we was on our way home from work, but on the way home from work, we pick up the children from daycare and from my sister's house.
Whose children?
My children, my 2 sons.
Were they in the car when you had this argument?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
4 and 7.
What was the argument about?
Well, we were having a discussion, and Mr. Wynn stated that I looked old. From that discussion,
well, what did he say? I want to hear what he said.
Well, he said that when he met me that I looked old. He was attracted to older women. When he met me, that was one of his attractions because I looked old at the time that he met me.
That's not true. That's not how it actually went.
Okay, and...
Okay.
Go ahead, sir. And you said?
From that, I got offended, and we started having an argument about that.
Well, tell me what you said to him.
Well, I told him that, well, at first I didn't say anything, and then I told him that I didn't know that he thought that I looked old, and I did take offense to him saying that.
You weren't speaking the same way you're speaking to me now.
No, ma'am.
You were screaming at each other.
Not at that point, we weren't screaming at each other. We didn't, screaming didn't actually start until we got to our home.
And what was the screaming about?
Well, this argument progressed on, so we started discussing other things like financial, him not being able to support our home financially and different things like that. And Mr. Wynn then left the house in my vehicle, and when he left, he stayed gone like 2 hours. When he returned, he laid his keys on the table and went to the bathroom. When he laid his keys on the table, I went to get my car key off of his key ring. He then came out of the bathroom, and it advanced into a struggle. He tried to take the keys away from me, and I wouldn't give him the keys. So at that time, he then punched me in the stomach and then the back of the head, and I fell on the floor. Okay. At that time, he punched me in the stomach and the back of the head, and I fell on the floor.
Where were your children?
They were in their bedrooms asleep.
But then they woke up.
Right. My younger son woke up. At that time, when he punched me in the stomach and the back of the head, I tried to call the police, so I reached for the phone. At the time, Mr. Wynn grabbed the phone and ripped the phone lines out of the wall. I got up and tried to go into the kitchen and use the phone as well. He ripped that one and the phone in the children's room out of the wall as well.
Let me see the police report. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Wynn then left out of the door and went outside and started to remove items from my vehicle that he had placed on there.
Like what?
like lights. He puts neon lights on the vehicle and different things like that. And I went out the back door and ran down the street to the payphone to call 911. When I returned, Mr. Wynn was already gone with both sets of keys to our house and my car, and had locked my sons inside of my apartment.
So what did you do?
The police came. When the police came, they helped me beat on the door, and my 7-year-old son woke up and came and opened the door for us to get in.
You have pictures of the car?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'd like to see it. Okay, go ahead.
About 3 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Wynn returned to our residence. He came in and he went to my children's room because that's where he kept a basket with some of his clothing in it. So when I went in the room, I told him he was not going to take the car again. At that time, he informed me that his mother was outside of our home waiting for him. So I told him, since it was 3 o'clock in the morning and want to wake the children, I would help him move his things out. So I started taking things out to his mother's car. She had her trunk open of her car, and I started putting things in there. At that time, Mr. Wynn went into my apartment and started throwing things out of the apartment, like my dolphin. I collect dolphin figurines. He threw them out. The children had 2 small betta fish, and they had 2 little separate tanks. He threw those out the front door and killed both of the fish. He took a hammer, my hammer, and burst my 10-gallon fish tank. I had an Oscar fish in it. He took a hammer and burst the fish tank, ruined the carpet in the living room, and glass was everywhere. And so I took and ran up the hill and back down to the corner and used the payphone again to call 911.
You have another police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
This police report is of another incident. That one, the first one that you have, states that they came back a second time.
This is from another incident?
Yes.
When was this?
I left town on that same day and went to my hometown. Stayed gone for about 3 days. When I returned, Mr. Wynn had broken into my apartment because I had the locks changed before I left and ruined several things, taken several things, jewelry, different things like that from my apartment while I was out of town. He had poured pills in my sink in my bathroom, broken glass in my bathtub.
Now I'll hear you, Mr. Wynn.
Actually, I'm gonna start from the beginning just like she did. The ride home, we was having a mutual conversation. She basically said, you thought I was some young girl, this and that and that and this. I said, no, I thought you were older. Then she said, what does that mean? I said, you could take it or leave it how you want it. She kind of got offended by it or whatever. Basically said nothing the rest of the ride home. When we get to the house...
I'd like you to look at me when you're speaking.
When we get to the house, she basically brings up the incident again. So you think... She said...
look at me, right here.
She said... Trying to breathe. She said that you offended me. She said you offended me when you called me old. I said I did not call you old. And she was like, well, you need to apologize. I said, I'm not apologizing because I did not call you old. She basically told me I would be sorry. So I got offended by that. You know what I'm saying? Took a shower and I planned on going to sleep after that. She came yanking covers off of me, telling me that I need to get up, do this, do that. And I told her, I said, I'm not finna talk to you to be arguing with you, so I'm finna go.
So you told her you were leaving?
Yes.
And you left?
I left.
And how did you go?
I left as, you know, like any normal, I wasn't mad.
No, did you leave in her car?
It was, you know, at that time, what's mine is yours and yours is mine. That's how we had it.
What did you have? Shh, listen to me.
I'm sorry.
What did you have?
At that time?
Did you have an apartment?
No.
Did you have a car?
No.
So what did you bring to the table?
I brought whatever, you know, at that time I provided.
That's a reasonable question. Why are you looking like that? It's a reasonable question.
Right.
What did you bring to the table? What's mine is mine and what's yours is mine is what you say.
Right. And, you know, it's basically...
Right, that's what I thought you were saying.
Whenever we needed anything in the apartment or anything like that, I would either get it or she would get it or we'd go together and get it.
All I asked you was, what was it that you brought? She had the home, she had the car. What did you bring?
I went half with her on the deposit, half with her on the rent, and whatever other bills we did. So that's how it basically was. It's like we went half and half on everything.
So you left in her car?
Right.
And what happened when you came back?
When I found out she wasn't asleep, I seen she was trying to take keys out the key ring, which to the car. And also, at the time, I thought the apartment too. And I tried to take the keys from her. You see what I'm saying? And at that time, she punched me.
That's not true.
Don't interrupt him.
She punched me 2 times, and I reacted in punching her.
We're going to go through this carefully.
Okay.
She's taking the keys off the ring.
Right.
You come into the room.
Right.
You go over to her.
Okay. The way she had the keys,
in her hand.
my key ring has like a little long thingy on it. I reached out and grabbed it. I basically put them on the couch, in the back of the couch, turned my back towards her. At that time, that's when I was punched, and when I was punched, I turned around and punched her.
Show me how you were punched.
She punched me like, it was 2 hits, and it was more like a you know what I'm saying? It was 2 hits, just that quick, and just as quick as she hit me, I hit her back.
Mm-hmm. Now what happened next, sir?
I really vaguely don't remember how we ended up outside, but when I ended up outside, she told me to get all my stuff out the car, all the stuff that I put on the car, take it off. She jumps in the car, I jumps in the car. She yanking lights off and everything on the inside of the car because I had neons on the inside of the car. I said, just let me take them off. When I get my tools out the trunk of the car, she's telling me she's going to call the police or whatever.
So you're telling me she's vandalizing her own car?
At that time, yes.
I don't think I believe that.
That's not true.
I don't think I believe that. I may believe some of the things that you tell me, but I don't believe that she's vandalizing her own car, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
That's a lie, Your Honor. She came and got all her stuff. Her sister even took her.
If you say one more thing to me without my looking at you, then I'm going to grant a petition. Do you understand?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Aisha Austin claims ex-boyfriend Marcus Wynn destroyed her belongings out of rage. Marcus says the rage was mutual.
I want to know what you did with her son's fish. Look at my eyes.
Okay. I went in the house and I went inside the room to gather some clothes because I wasn't planning on staying for the rest of that week.
The fish.
Right. I'm getting to that part.
Get there.
Okay. When she noticed I was trying to leave, she started grabbing my dishes and, like she said, throwing them in the back of my mom's car and was breaking them at the same time. I kind of got agitated and I started throwing her stuff out. She started throwing stuff of mine out. I started just picking up stuff and going crazy myself. I took the fish, threw them around, went across the fish tank with a hammer. And that's just plain and simple.
Got there. Then there came a time when you came back to the house.
Correct.
But she had changed the locks.
Right.
The lease wasn't in your name.
Right.
So you broke into the house.
Right.
You can't do that, Mr. Wynn. Now, I'm not saying that Miss Austin didn't lose her temper. Miss Austin.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe you probably lost your temper a little bit. That be a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Ones I feel most sorry for are those 2 little children who are in the house, seeing the 2 adults that they supposedly look up to acting like a bunch of school children, fighting with each other, screaming, yelling, killing their pets. You should both feel terrible about that.
I do.
What? No, you didn't. If you did, then you
Not
would...
at that time I didn't, but, once I sat down and thought about it, I did.
Can I see an estimate on the car, please?
I don't have the estimate.
Well, how am I supposed to determine how much it'll cost to fix the car?
Well, when I went to get the estimate done, the shop was already closed, the service department, so I wasn't able to get the estimate done.
So what does he owe you money for? Fish, for sure.
He took a lot of things from my apartment. I have that on the paper as well. He has not returned anything that he's taken.
Like what?
Jewelry, different.
What kind of jewelry?
I have a herringbone chain, a rope chain.
Did you take any jewelry from her house?
Oh,
it's not an answer.
Yes, I did.
Where is it?
Where is it? It's at my mom's house as of now.
All the jewelry is to be returned to her within 5 days.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm awarding you $250, which you're going to use to go out and refurbish a fish tank for the children. Yourself, get the children. You should write them a note of apology.
Well, I kind of planned on talking to them face to face and letting them know how much of, apology I would like to give them.
5 days. I'll prepare an order. All the jewelry goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just feel like it got out of control that night, and it's something that shouldn't have happened at all.
Man, you thought we was at WWF wrestling.
The best way to handle it is just to have left it alone in the beginning.
It was just like a madman and a mad woman going at each other.
I'd like to get my life back on track.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Casey versus Kauff. Step forward, please.
Administrative Manager Sally Casey is suing Lisa Kaupp and her parents Bob and Adelina Kaupp for the cost to fix her son's car.
Stand over there.
You may be seated.
Mrs. Casey, it is your claim that the defendant's daughter, I assume this young lady right here, totaled your son's car.
That's correct.
She was driving the car without permission. You want her parents to be responsible. Her parents say that he shouldn't have let her drive the car, and it's not their responsibility. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like all the parents to sit down for a moment. What's your first name?
Michael.
Stand up on your own 2 feet, Michael. Your name?
Lisa.
You too. Put your hands at your sides. Good. That makes you more vulnerable. I want you to tell me how you got possession of his car. And you look at me, and I want you to make sure of one thing. I don't care what kind of baloney you gave to your parents. I don't care what kind of baloney you gave to your mother. What I'm going to find out is how you got possession of his car. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The school should have notified me. I can't be with her 24/7 watching over her.
If what you're telling me is that you actually believe that position, there is something seriously wrong with you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Michael Casey says schoolmate 16-year-old Lisa Kaup took his car without permission and wrecked it. Lisa says Michael willingly handed her the keys.
Let's go.
Okay. It was March 14, 2002. It was the day before my birthday. And it was 4th period, and my friends didn't want to go to 4th period. We thought it was a lame class. So
I want you to go slowly because I'm old and I can't hear you when you're speaking in 45 speed.
Okay.
It was your birthday. That's where you lost me.
So I had balloons and flowers, the whole 9, because it was the day before my birthday. And my friends didn't want to go to 4th period, so we decided to just go to school, but we didn't want to walk. And I had previously borrowed Mike Casey's car before. He said...
Shh. Go ahead.
So we wanted to borrow someone's car, so we found Mike. And one of my friends...
Who's we?
My friends, me and my 2 other friends.
Names?
Lisa and Gina.
So you found Mike where?
In the quad of the old school campus.
You were all together?
Yes. We approached him and we asked, Mike, can we borrow your car?
Who asked?
My friend Lisa. And then she said, Mike, can we borrow your car? And he said, go ahead, as long as you put gas in it. So then we took the car, we walked out of school, and we took the car, and we went to my friend Lisa's house. And then we jumped back into the car, and then we were pulling away from the driveway. I looked over my shoulder, but because of the balloons and the flowers that I looked over, and the car must have been in my blind spot. So then I pulled away from the curb real slow, and then the car came up, and the whole other side of the road was open, but the car didn't move out of the way. She just approached forward. And then so we collided, and but the left fender of Mike's car hit the front fender of the other woman's car.
Now your version.
All right, I was in...
No, look at me.
Okay.
And I want you to trust me. I don't care what story you gave to your mother. I want you to know that I have a truth machine back here.
All right.
Do you understand?
I understand.
Good.
All right. It was around 12 o'clock, right before lunch, and Lisa, her friend, came up to me. I didn't see this Lisa or her other friend. I don't know what the other friend's name was. But Lisa came up to me and asked me for the keys because I gave her a ride the day before, to school. She said she left a notebook in my car. She took the keys from me. I said, meet me back here in 5 minutes. So I waited for 5 minutes, waited for 20, waited for 30, waited for 40. I was called into the office. I saw them in the back of a police car come up. They said, your car has been totaled. I was like, how has my car been totaled? They said, it's been crashed. I was like, how has it been crashed? They said, well, Lisa Kaup was driving your car and she crashed it. I said, Lisa Kaup? I gave the keys to Lisa in the first place. What's the whole point here?
Let me see a police report.
This one?
Have you in the past let anyone else drive your car?
No. Ever.
That's not true.
Well, my grandpa, the one that gave it to me?
No, I'm not talking about your grandpa. I'm talking about any other of your peers drive your car.
The only person that's ever driven my car other than me, one of my peers, is my friend Vince. That's all.
Excuse me, Your Honor. The first time that I had borrowed his car, We came back to lunch, and one of his friends came up to me, and they're like, what are you doing in Mike's car? And we're like, oh, Mike said the keys are in the ignition, we can take it. He was like, oh, okay, that's cool. He got in the car, and he took off.
Who
one
is
of his
this?
other friends. Sean.
Sean came up to you and said that?
Yes. He came into the car, and he took off with the car.
Sean took off with the car?
Yes.
How did you get the keys to the car on that date?
We said, oh, can I borrow your car, Mike? And he was like, go ahead. I was like, I don't have my license, I just have my permit. He's like,
How
I
did
don't
you know
mind.
my
The keys
name?
are
I've
in
never
the-"
met you. I never
mentioned
met you before
day.
that.
He was like, oh, I don't mind. Go ahead. The keys are in the ignition.
Okay. Now,
keys are in the ignition?
Just a minute. Now you can stand up. I tell you this. Even though I have some question about how she got control of that car, you're responsible, because she's responsible. I have some serious questions as to whether, when he just gave her the keys to the car, this other girl who said, go get your things out of the car, I left a notebook there because I was in the car a day before. I'm not so sure. Your daughter has no right to drive a car, right?
Right.
She knows she has no right to be driving a car.
Correct.
She was driving the car in a negligent fashion because she had all of her balloons in the back so she couldn't see what was going on. So what makes you folks think she's not responsible?
Well, she is an unlicensed permit, has a permit only. And she was given the keys by the boy, and he knew that she didn't have a driver's license. Why would he give the keys to her when she don't have a driver's license?
Where is her responsibility?
She should have known. But
So, where is her
I dropped her off
responsibility?
at school. I expect her in school. And if she is tempted by someone else that's unresponsible and not driving the car, or in giving her the keys to drive the car, the school should have notified me. I can't be with her 24/7 watching over her. And it's high school. I mean, she's no little baby.
There is something wrong with you. Unless you're telling me that you're trying to make it a situation better. But if what you're telling me is that you actually believe that position, there is something seriously wrong with you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Michael Casey says schoolmate 16-year-old Lisa Kaup took his car without permission and wrecked it. Lisa says Michael willingly handed her the keys.
She's blamed everybody else but herself. I guess she gets that from you.
No.
It was the other lady who had plenty of room to go around them but didn't. It wasn't the fact that she couldn't see out of the back window because of all the balloons. It was the other lady's fault. It was his fault because he gave her the keys, or the other Lisa the keys, and Lisa gave her the keys. She has a responsibility. And since she has no money, it falls on you.
She shouldn't have been given the keys.
She had no right to take it.
I agree.
Let me ask you this question, sir. Where do you live?
Rosemead,
Where is that?
California.
Have you ever been to Las Vegas?
Yes, ma'am.
You're at the airport waiting to go to Las Vegas. You see a couple of pilots coming out. They're going to get on your plane. One of the pilots says, "Oi, I have such a terrible headache. Mr. Kaup, would you please take the keys to this 747? And would you take the plane and fly it into Las Vegas as a co-pilot, because you need two people in the front cockpit in case something happens to the pilot. Would you do that?
No.
Why not?
I'm not going to jeopardize my life or other
Right,
people.
because you don't have the wherewithal to fly a plane.
Right.
You've not been properly trained to fly a plane. Even though this pilot gave you the keys and says, go start it up and take off.
I would have
You wouldn't
refused
be an
it.
idiot, would you?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't be an idiot. Well, your daughter's an idiot.
She should have known better. I agree.
Right, there we go. Now you get into some responsibility.
She should have said, no, I don't want the keys, but she didn't.
No, she went and asked for the keys. Don't you understand? He didn't say, even according to her, here, I'm going to find Lisa and give her the keys to the car because she's got all these balloons and flowers. They came looking for him, according to her story.
But he could have said no. He didn't have to say yeah. He knew that he didn't have a permit.
I think it's genetic.
I say no. When
You
my other
said-
daughters want to drive,
Right.
I tell them no. She should have been paying attention.
That's it. Now, look, at least I made a convert out of one of you. He didn't do the wrong thing. You did the wrong thing. I want you to repeat after me. I did the wrong thing.
I did the wrong thing.
That's better. That didn't hurt much, did it? Let me see the bill to fix your car.
There's that. There's the impound.
Did you get the car out?
No, it was useless. You couldn't be driven anymore.
You have pictures of this car?
Yes, I do.
Good. How did you deal with the damage to the other car?
I'm pretty sure my insurance company paid for it.
Yes, Your Honor, may I interject here?
Stand up.
Actually, what had happened was I had contacted my insurance company and explained to them that my son had been involved in an accident, and the insurance follows the car. Therefore, my insurance covered the damage to the Lexus as a result of...
The car that was damaged
Correct.
by her. That's a very good insurance
Yes.
company you have. So now I'm going to give you the bad news. I don't believe your story. I believe that you are partially responsible. I think she's more responsible than you are. Your total damages were $1,992, and I am attributing 1/3 of those damages to you. 2/3 to her. That comes to $1,328. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. So you have to understand something. If you're given the keys to a car, and you're given a car to drive, you don't give those keys to anybody, whether they want to get a notebook, whether they want to listen to music, whether they want to do anything. You keep the keys to your car in your pocket, because the only one who's going to suffer out of this whole thing is your mother.
I understand.
Because her insurance is going to go up. She had a lot of aggravation, all because you wanted to be a nice guy. And as far as you're concerned, I have made your father a convert. Your father now understands the word responsibility. I hope that by repeating the phrase that I gave you 100 times in the mirror every night, you will also understand that if you do something wrong, you're supposed to fess up and say, I did it wrong, it was my fault. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
A pretty face only gets you so far, that's all.
Why is our excuse? You may step out.
Was lying about the whole situation.
The parents seem to be very irresponsible as far as the actions of their children.
What's happened has happened, and at least that's not the full amount that I have to pay.
I'm just glad I got my part of the money.
It's not like it's a one-way street here. He gave me the keys, and I took it in return.
Don't give your keys out to
হ্যালো ফ্রেন্ডস, ওয়েলকাম ব্যাক টু মাই চ্যানেল। কেমন আছো তোমরা সবাই? আশা করি সবাই খুব ভালো আছো, আর আমিও খুব ভালো আছি। তো আজকে আমি তোমাদের সঙ্গে তোমাদের রিকোয়েস্টের একটা ভিডিও নিয়ে চলে এসেছি। তোমরা অনেকেই জানতে চেয়েছো আমার ডেইলি স্কিন কেয়ার রুটিন। তো আমার ডেইলি স্কিন কেয়ার রুটিন কিন্তু খুবই সিম্পল, কারণ আমার স্কিনে যেহেতু সেন্সিটিভ স্কিন, তো আমাকে সেজন্য খুবই অল্প কিছু জিনিস দিয়ে স্কিন কেয়ার করতে হয়। বাট অল্প হলেও সেই জিনিসগুলো আমার স্কিনের জন্য খুবই সেফ, এবং সেই জিনিসগুলোর দাম একটু এক্সপেন্সিভ, কেননা আমি সবসময় চাই যে আমি যে জিনিসগুলো ইউজ করবো স্কিনে সেগুলো যেন সেফ থাকে, এবং কি সেগুলো ডার্মাটোলজিস্ট দ্বারা স্বীকৃত। তো যার জন্য সেগুলো একটু এক্সপেন্সিভ। তো যার জন্য তোমরা হচ্ছে একটু এক্সপেন্সিভ জিনিস কিনতে সামর্থ্য আছে, তারাই একমাত্র সেই প্রোডাক্টগুলো চাইলে কিনতে পারো। যারা মনে করো যে তোমাদের বাজেটের বাইরে, তোমরা স্টুডেন্ট আছো বা হাউস ওয়াইফ আছো, তাহলে আমি জোর করবো না তোমাদের ওগুলো কেনার জন্য। বাট আমার জন্য সেগুলো স্যুট করেছে, যেহেতু আমি জানোই আমার স্কিনটা কেমন, ওই কারণে। তো চলো তাহলে এখন তোমাদেরকে আমার ডেইলি স্কিন কেয়ার রুটিনের সঙ্গে পরিচয় করিয়ে দিই। তো সকালে ঘুম থেকে উঠে হচ্ছে আমি এই ফেস ওয়াশটা ইউজ করি, যেটার নাম হচ্ছে সিরাপি ফোমিং ক্লিনজার ফর নর্মাল টু অয়েলি স্কিন। তো আমার স্কিনে যেহেতু একটু অয়েলি স্কিন, সেজন্য আমি এই ফেস ওয়াশটা চুজ করেছি। তো এই ফেস ওয়াশটা প্রথমে ইউজ করার পরে সকালে উঠে ইউজ করে তারপর মুখটা খুব ভালো মতো মুছে আমি যদি হচ্ছে বাইরে যাই, তাহলে আমি এই ময়শ্চারাইজারটা ইউজ করি, যেটা হচ্ছে উইথ সানস্ক্রিন, মানে ময়শ্চারাইজিংও করবে, তোমার স্কিনটাকে সানস্ক্রিনও প্রোটেকশনও দিবে। তো যার জন্য আলাদা করে ময়শ্চারাইজার ইউজ করি না, জাস্ট এটা ইউজ করে আমি বাইরে চলে যাই। আর যদি আমি হচ্ছে শুধু ঘরে থাকে, বাইরে না যায়, তাহলে আমি এই ময়শ্চারাইজারটা ইউজ করি, যেটা হচ্ছে সিম্পল হাইড্রেটিং লাইট ময়শ্চারাইজার। আর ঘরে বাইরে গেলে হচ্ছে এটা ইউজ করি, যেটা হচ্ছে সিরাপি AM ফেশিয়াল ময়শ্চারাইজিং লোশন, যেটা হচ্ছে তোমার স্কিনটাকে ময়শ্চারাইজও করবে, প্লাস হচ্ছে সূর্যের আলোর যে ক্ষতিকর রশ্মি সেটা থেকে তোমার স্কিনটাকে প্রোটেক্ট করবে। এটা হচ্ছে কথা। তো যাই হোক, আশা করছি তোমাদেরকে বোঝাতে পেরেছি। তোমরা যদি বাইরে না যাও, তাহলে শুধু এটা ইউজ করলে হবে, আর বাইরে গেলে এটা ইউজ করো, বা অন্যান্য যে কোনো সানস্ক্রিন এটা লাগানোর পরে ইউজ করলেই হবে। যেহেতু এটাতে ময়শ্চারাইজার আছে, সেজন্য আমি আর আলাদা করে ময়শ্চারাইজার ইউজ করি না, এটা হচ্ছে কথা। তো যাই হোক, এরপর হচ্ছে রাতের স্কিন কেয়ার। রাতের স্কিন কেয়ারটা খুবই সিম্পল, জাস্ট হচ্ছে আমি এটা ইউজ করি, ফেস ওয়াশটা ইউজ করি, যেটা সকালে ইউজ করতাম। দেন হচ্ছে আমি একটা সিরাম ইউজ করি। তো হচ্ছে আমি এই সিরামটা ইউজ করি, যে সিরামটার নাম হচ্ছে কি সিরাপি রিসার্ভিং রেটিনল সিরাম। তো এটা মূলত আমি হচ্ছে আমার মুখে যেন ব্রণ না হয় বা যেগুলো হয়েছে সেগুলো দাগটা যেন চলে যায়। জানো তো রেটিনল হচ্ছে একটা শক্তিশালী অ্যাসিড বলতে পারো, তো যেটা হচ্ছে আমাদের স্কিনের জন্য খুব ভালো কাজ করে। তো এই আর কি আমার রাতের স্কিন কেয়ার খুবই সিম্পলভাবে রেখেছি। আর এটার পরে অবশ্যই কিন্তু ময়শ্চারাইজার ইউজ করতে হয়। তো এটা লাগানোর পরে স্কিন সঙ্গে যখন খুব ভালো মতো অ্যাবজর্ব হয়ে যায়, মানে 5-6 মিনিট পরে তারপরে আমি এই ময়শ্চারাইজারটা ইউজ করি, যেটা হচ্ছে দিনের বেলা ঘরে থাকলে ইউজ করি আর কি, যেটা হচ্ছে সিম্পল হাইড্রেটিং লাইট ময়শ্চারাইজার। তো এটা হচ্ছে কথা। তো আশা করি তোমাদেরকে বোঝাতে পেরেছি আমার ফুল স্কিন কেয়ার রুটিনটা। তো যদি ভিডিও ভালো লেগে থাকে অবশ্যই লাইক দিয়ে দিও, চ্যানেলটাকে অবশ্যই সাবস্ক্রাইব করবে। দেখা হবে নেক্সট কোনো ভিডিওতে। সো টাটা, বাই বাই।